Call to order. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Marcus Major.
Here.
Andrew Greble.
Here.
Robert Owens.
Here.
Steve Skeet.
Here.
Doug Tyson.
Here.
I'm here. William Gotchek.
Here.
Daniel Clemens. Here. Jaden Bailey.
Here.
Joshua Zanger.
Here.
Okay, do you have approval of the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes as stated.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Marcus Major.
Yes.
Andrew Greble.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Steve Skeet.
Yes.
Doug Tyson.
Yes.
I vote yes. William Gotchek.
Yes.
Daniel Clemens.
Yes.
Jaden Bailey.
Abstain. I was absent.
Joshua Zanger.
Yes.
Okay, Secretary's report.
All right. Good evening, gentlemen. We have a few different cases here before you tonight. A total of 9. We have one variance where we'll start off with that, where we'll need 3 of y'all to step down for the variance. We have 1 on consent agenda. You'll have 4 plats with exceptions that's required, and then 3 public hearing items. And that is all I have.
Okay. Do we have any declarations tonight? Okay. Roll into the Board of Zoning Appeals. Andrew, you're going to sit out. Need 2 more to sit down. Marcus?
We're on the end. Josh, you want to stay in?
3 outside? Okay. So do a roll call for the Board of Zoning Appeals. Robert Owens?
Yes.
Here. Steve Skeet? It says roll call right there?
Yep. Here.
Doug Tyson?
Here.
I'm here. Willie Gotcha?
Here.
Andy Clemens?
Here.
Joshua Zanger?
Nope.
Oh, Jay.
Here.
Look how corner my Okay, we'll go straight into the appeal. The 11th County Board of Zoning Appeals will now consider case DEV-26-088, a variance request from Article 41, Section 6, Exhibit BA, residential entrance spacing requirement of the zoning and subdivision regulations. This requires a public hearing. Public comment limited to 5 minutes per person. Planning staff, and I'll give you a staff report.
All right, the case before you right now is DEV 26-088. That's the variance request from Article 40, Section 6, Exhibit BA. This refers to your residential entrance spacing. The applicants are proposing to place 2 entrances for a public roadway on Evans Road. Evans Road is considered a high-volume collector road, which requires a minimum of 300 feet in between each entrance on the same side of the road. The applicants are currently working with the City of Basel with the proposed development. However, the county has no jurisdiction pertaining to the development of the property. Evans Road is a county-maintained road, which requires the granting of any entrances along Evans Road to be granted from the county. Planning staff our policy is we don't make recommendations of the approval or disapproval. We just provide analysis of those 5 statutory factors. Your decision is based upon whether the request meets or does not meet those requirements. If it's determined one of them is not met, then the request does not pass. Those 5 requirements are identified on page 2 of your staff report. The applicant is here to discuss their variance request further and to answer any questions you may have. That being said, I am open to your questions.
Okay. Any questions for Josh? Okay.
Not yet.
Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant come forward?
Name and address?
Yes.
Aaron Teben with Kimley Horn, and my address is 13720 Richland Avenue in Bonner Springs, Kansas. I'm Aaron Teben, again, Kimley Horn, civil engineer for the project. We're representing Ad Astra Development. The development is Pinehurst Ridge. I think he outlined it pretty well. The property was annexed into the city of Basehor. The public roadway, Evans Road to the south, is a county-maintained road. That's kind of the reason for the variance request. I don't know that I have a whole lot more to add to that. I guess if you guys have questions, I'm more than happy to answer. What I will say is Chris Colson with Ad Astra wanted to be here. He had another public hearing that he needed to be at, so I'm here to represent for him.
Where is 166, Road 166?
It's a little bit that direction, correct. Yeah, it's just off of the screen, kind of where you're seeing.
Have you considered having one of the roads on 166 instead of pushing both of them to Evans Road?
So our property, there's actually not a connection until you get all the way up to the far, far north end by State Avenue. We don't actually abut Evans, or 166. So our only access is down on Evans Road. There's kind of a gap that's owned by somebody else. We own a piece, but then it's separated by another piece of property that's so we can't cross it.
Can you go to the picture on the summary? See where it's got the outline there? It looks like to me that it does butt against 166.
I really need to look. I'm kind of newer to the project, but I believe there's still is that the parcel boundary?
Yes, the orange outline is the boundaries of the parcel.
We may need to look at that. The other consideration there is the creek crossing, so that's part of that. To get the development started, you don't want to go build a $1.5 million bridge, and then that ultimately just adds more traffic to 166th. So it kind of just essentially the way the access lays out, like standard roadway spacing in the city of Basehor standards. At some point, I believe this road is intended to be located in the city of Basehor, and we do meet the spacing requirements for streets in the city limits. We're just not quite meeting the county limits.
So have you studied what it would take to connect to that road?
So we're not actually looking at a connection there, but we are looking future, which is years down the road, but future phases to the north would have a connection to 166, but it's well up to the north, almost a lot closer to State Avenue.
Do we have a current traffic study on Evans Road? How much more vehicles we're going to be throwing on that road?
Yep. So we had to complete a traffic study, basically, whatever. We're working with the city of Basehor on that. So whatever they're asking us to study, we're providing, and what that's showing is that with the first couple of phases on the project that we're maintaining the acceptable levels of service on Evans.
What are the current separations between, there are 3 points there, one between your property and the property to the west, then the two entrances and the property to the east. What are those three distances?
So I know ours is 330-ish feet separated. One of the circle drives on the residence right to our east is going to be removed with the project. So he's got a circle drive. He'll have one of his accesses maintained, the other one will go away. So that'll help with spacing on that one. And then I don't know off the top of my head what, I think that's 165th to the west, what that is, but it's probably 500 feet or something along those lines, if I had to guess. I don't know off the top of my head, though. It's kind of, you can kind of see where the creek runs up through there. It's further west than that, so it's quite a bit further space than what an our 330-foot spacing is.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor or opposition of this request? Come on up.
Hello, my name is Monica Brooks. I live at 18100 165th Street, Baser, Kansas, right next to where this proposal is. I am coming to speak in opposition of having two entrances onto Evans Road. I've been at all the Planning Commission meetings, I've been at the City Hall meetings in Baser, and their voting and what Baser approved is a one driveway onto Evans and a one driveway onto 165th, with 165th having a bridge built over that creek that they were planning on doing with commercial and then residential, so high density moving into lower density. They didn't come prepared tonight. They did not bring all the information. I usually bring my husband as well, but the speaker who said that the Ad Astra fella is at another meeting in Baser for another Ad Astra property, which starts in 15 minutes. So it's kind of dirty that they split counties and split differences to be able to pull people from being able to speak on this. I live off Evans Road. I live right on the corner of 165th and Evans Road. My home faces Evans Road. It is a high population traffic area, and if you are to add from my house, which is about 400 feet from where they're wanting to put these roads, 2 on-ramps for about 400 to 600 homes that they're trying to put in that property right there, we are going to have many accidents. My children are 15 and 14. I have a restricted and a learner's permit. My kids are scared if this comes in to drive on that road because they know they're not, first of all, going to get to school on time because Evans Road comes to a stop sign. You're going to be 15, 16 cars back trying to get to school. They'd rather try and ride the bus because then they're not late if the bus is late to school. I'm worried about our property values and having that much more property driving by my home. We have a place across the road from us that's got 2-acre lots, 17 plots that are being put in. The road's been put in. The wiring, the infrastructure, the water, the plumbing, all of that's been put in. I'm just asking you to not put 2 entrances. I understand. This has already been approved. Okay, perfect. It's coming. I ask that you have Ad Astra only do 1 entrance onto Evans Road to reduce the amount of cars that are coming onto that, the amount of accidents that are going to happen, the amount of wear and tear on that road, which is not prepared for that amount of cars to be in addition to what is already traveling that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, thank you for being here. Ginger Turner, 15651 Pine Ridge in Baser. I live not far from this development. I often go down 166 to Evans, and it's already, I can't imagine another 100 or 200 cars on Evans. So I would ask that you not approve this. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
My name is Neela Burnett. I live in that same neighborhood at 165th and Evans Road. And in addition to what's already been said, I would say that Evans Road is really narrow. It has no shoulders. There has already been an accident involving a death at 166th and Evans Road. The snow plows do not a good job of clearing that. Adding that kind of traffic to that area, I think is going to be really a serious problem. They're not talking about doing roundabouts or anything for traffic control. I think it's going to be a very, very unsafe area. Thank you.
Anyone else?
And I know it's not our jurisdiction, but has this been platted as this shows?
It's been preliminary platted. We're working with the city of Baser right now on public improvement plans and the final plat. So it hasn't been final platted, but the preliminary plat's been approved.
Can you address what the one speaker said, that Baser one on Evans Road and one on 165th or 160? whatever road.
Was it the access question?
Yes.
Like moving one over there? We can look at it. I don't know that the development is feasible if we have to build a bridge with phase one. We can definitely look at it. The intent of this is really just to look at the access spacing. If we don't get the access, we're going to have to go back and try to rethink how one access could work here, and that gets a little bit challenging because you got to start to think about emergency services and having that second point of access. So I think ultimately this is the preferred solution and the path that we're heading down, but if it's not approved, we're just going to have to go back to the drawing board.
I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. My question was, did the city of Basehor have the entrances split like what I asked?
Oh, I don't know what she was referring to with the commercial. What I've been involved with has been residential since I came into the project. I'm newer to this project. We had a PM that left the firm, and so I'm kind of stepping in at the midpoint here. I can't speak to the complete history of what's happened at this property. I don't know if she's referring to the plan that came forward when annexation happened way back in the day, or what that comment was referring to. Our plan, to my knowledge, has never showed a secondary access over to, except for way up at the north end of the development, which is like in the last phase of the development. And ultimately, we can't
How many phases are there?
I think 6 total. And there is a point in time where we can't do more without doing improvements to State Avenue up to the north. So the traffic study basically supports phase 1, 2, I think 3 and 4 before improvements are going to be required up on State and 166th. So it does look at that.
So 2, 3, and 4 will all access out on
just 1 and 2.
Just 1 and 2 will act. So how many more homes are we talking in phase 2?
I think 1 and 2 is 150 total. Right.
So we'll call another 250 cars. 1.2 per 1.4 per home, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
This may be a question for John. What's the county's thoughts on putting a roundabout on Evans Road? Is that a big no?
I would be stepping out of my purview to give you an answer to that. I will say that the county took a look at their traffic plan and believed that it met the spirit and intent of the regulation.
Okay.
Anything else for him? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any additional information to be presented?
The only other thing that I will add is that there was a couple opposition letters that did come in, and those are within your all's packets.
Okay. Public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there questions or comments from the members of the commission?
Josh, will you bring up the picture of the GIS?
This one, or you want the actual?
No,
GIS?
that one's perfect. So 3.01 down there, if we all remember, we approved, even though we have phase 1 right there of the development, but there will be further development in that parcel. So even more houses, even more cars.
Is 301 part of Basehor as well?
No, that is one of ours.
Okay, but the one that's in discussion is Basehor's.
Correct.
It's just the road's ours.
Correct.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Do we know what Basehor has considered up to now on the building?
You talking about for this current parcel?
Yeah.
So we did send this over to the city of Basehor for their comments, and they put on there that they're not submitting any comments, or what they came back with is that that this is within our jurisdiction and their development's within theirs, so they're not going to provide any comments.
So my concern is with dumping another 500 cars on Evans Road and having a stop sign at each end. I mean, it'd be nice if somebody would step up and say, hey, our plan is to put stoplights at 166th and Evans Road, or we're going to put a stoplight here. It kind of leaves us in a pickle here with not knowing what the future of Baser wanting to do. It kind of would have been nice if we had someone from Baser to give us some information. And I understand, John, that's Baser and we're here.
It's also a solution seems to be having an outlet onto 166. I understand that's not the ideal plan, but sometimes the ideal plan doesn't happen because of other concerns.
Well, my concern is the amount of cars going on Evans Road and the speed of the cars. I mean, a roundabout solves a whole lot of problems, guys. Slows traffic down, limits accidents. We're going to be putting a lot of vehicles on that road.
And Evans is very narrow.
That's not our call.
Yep.
What's the speed limit on that road? What's the speed limit on that road?
45.
Visibility is low too.
No shoulders.
With additional development happening to the south.
It was 2440, the two-lane version.
Check applicant before jump up. Didn't know if I could talk after public. So you see the little L-shaped piece of property, kind of almost directly at the center of the north end? Yeah, right there. So in the future phases, there is a connection to 166, and we're going to be held to not like essentially phase 1 and 2. We can't go past that until we have that connection. So that is a little bit of the relief I think you're looking for. They're not going to allow us to take all 500 of those cars and put them onto Evans. Like at some point, when you get past phase 2, we have to make that connection to 166, and so that is going to provide some alleviation. There's also plans for stub roads internally, so as this area develops, it's not going to be just like we're not going to be landlocked internally here. There will be future connections that sprawl out into as this area begins to develop. That will begin to happen, and they're planning for those future connections to go west, and I think Pinehurst Drive eventually is actually going to connect through here. So there's some stuff that's ultimately going to happen that's going to alleviate Evans Road. But I know the traffic study is stating that the stop signs are meeting an acceptable level of service with that first 2 phase.
So as I kind of understand it here, and thank you.
Yep.
We're looking at a variance from the county regulations as far as distances between driveways, correct?
Entrance space.
And so if we do not grant this variance, will a single driveway be within the county requirements, the 300 feet?
Yes, likely it would be within that 300-foot spacing if there's a single driveway.
So that would be
or single road access.
A single drive is acceptable under current county, and I'm not talking about the city of Baser.
From a spacing, an access point spacing standpoint, yes, a single would be acceptable at the county level.
Okay, that's what I need to know.
But that doesn't alleviate the traffic count. Then they're just going at 1 point instead of 2, unless they do something on 166.
Well,
at least slows it down.
It's their problem and the city of Baser's problem.
It's a further bottleneck, at least.
If it meets the access management policy, it gets permitted. That's it. So the reason it's before you denied is because it doesn't currently meet that spacing requirement. So that's why they're requesting it. Yeah.
Do you recall where we had the access point from 3.01 on Evans Road?
Right across the street.
Well, I understand that, but in relationship to the roads that they're proposing.
The spacing requirement, it's measured from a single point in the road, nothing across the road. So in a city, typically you're going to measure both of those. Turning movements that occur across one another because it can be in conflict, but that's not how county regulations work.
Okay. On the same side.
Okay. Anything else? Then I will entertain a motion on this request.
Mr. Chairman, I hereby make a motion to deny a variance from Article 41, Section 6, Exhibit B.A, residential entrance spacing for case VEV 26-088, as submitted by the application based on a finding that I would cite safety, the intensity of cars, character of the neighborhood as the top concerns on my list, that they have not been met.
Which is factor 4.
Factor 4, yes, and factor 1.
Second.
Okay. Is there a discussion of the motion? Okay, roll call vote. Robert Owens?
Yes.
Yes to deny.
Yes to deny.
Steve Skeet? Yes. Doug Tyson?
Yes.
William Gutchick?
Yes to deny.
Daniel Clemens?
Yes to deny.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes to deny.
And I will also vote yes to deny, so that's 7-0. Okay. Now, agreed party may appeal this decision made by the Board of Zoning Appeals to the Leavenworth County District Court. Said appeal must be filed within 30 days of the date of this decision. Okay.
You all free time.
Adjourn Board of Zoning Appeals. Open the regular Planning Commission.
Back on you.
That's really good. Stepping up. Do you want me to turn the camera back on?
Yes, please.
Now I'm looking for an approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as shown by the planning staff.
Second. Okay, roll call vote. Marcus Major?
Yes.
Andrew Gribble?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Doug Tyson?
Yes.
I vote yes. William Gutchick?
Yes.
Daniel Clemens?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
And Joshua Zanger?
Yes.
Okay, move
How can I help you today? Let me know what you'd like to work on.
Pardon me.
turn your phone off.
Being attacked by Dennis.
The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV-26-062/063, a preliminary and final plat for Creekstone Ridge, third plat, as outlined in the posted agenda. This is not a public hearing item. The planning staff will now give the staff report.
All right, this case is case DEV 26-062 and 063. This is a preliminary and final plat consideration of a property located at 178th Street. The applicants are proposing a replat of lots 1, 2, 3, and Tract A of the Creekstone Ridge second plat. The proposal is creating a 8-lot subdivision. The proposed development has a previously approved exception for the road connectivity to 178th that was approved by this body on May 13th, Planning Commission meeting. This proposal does require 2 more exceptions in order to be compliant with regulations. One exception is for Lot 1, which it exceeds the 1-to-1 lot depth to width ratio, and the second exception is for lots 3, 4, and 5 for exceeding the maximum 150-foot building setback line. Those exceptions are based upon the 3 criteria needed for the approval. We do need a motion for the approval or disapproval of the exceptions before the disposition of the plats can be made. If the exceptions were to be approved, it would be in conformance with regulations. The applicant is here to discuss the request further and to answer questions that you might have. With that being said, I am open to your questions.
Does the applicant wish to speak?
You can. Lot 6, why is that not included in the setback? That 3, 4, and 5
talking about this one? Is that right, sir? Because it is at the 150 building setback line. I want to say the 3, 4, and 5, which is right there, is at a 175-foot setback.
I'm sorry, please.
Continue, Joe.
Good evening, Joe Herring Surveying, 315 North 5th Street. The exception on Lot 1, there is an existing house and structure, and that was previously platted in kind of that configuration, so that's the reason for that exception there. The 3 exceptions on the setbacks, yes, it's a little farther back, but it does not impede the building envelope. There's plenty of space behind it to build the house on the ridge where the desired location actually is. So they were going to build that far back anyway. They just help us fit the 8th lot in there. That this has made many renditions to get to this point, so this is the best use. And as for 6, as per your question, it meets the regulation, 150 feet, so it does not need the exception at this time.
Okay.
Any questions for Joe? Is there
So
any
this is
addition?
your design? After you said it went through many...
It was the original design, and we tried to go the other way. That's how the other exception came into play. And
I told you to
then
quit using stubby pencils, Joe. You got to start using computers.
computers. We're here to talk about that later. So.
Is there any additional information, Josh?
No, sir.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the members of the commission? Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the exception.
Mr. Chairman, I hereby recommend approval of an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3.I, lot depth to lot width, in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 26-062-063, as submitted by the application, based on a finding that all 3 criteria for an exception have been met.
Second.
Is there a discussion of the motion? Okay, roll call vote. Marcus Major?
Yes.
Andrew Gribble?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Doug Tyson?
Yes.
William Gutchick?
Yes.
Daniel Clemens?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Joshua Zinger?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. I will entertain the motion to approve.
Approve the rest.
There's only one exception, right?
There's 2
Oh,
exceptions
2.
on this one.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the second exception.
Mr. Chairman, I hereby recommend approval of an exception from Article 3, lot depth definition, building setback line, in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 26-062-063 as submitted by the application, based on the finding that all 3 criteria for an exception have been met.
I'll second.
Is there a discussion of this motion? Roll call vote. Marcus Major?
Yes.
Andrew Gribble?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Doug Tyson?
Yes.
William Gutchick?
Yes.
Daniel Clemens?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Joshua Zinger?
Yes.
Also passes 9. I will entertain a motion to approve the plat.
Mr. Chairman, I find that the subdivision request complies with the zoning and subdivision regulations and move to recommend approval to the Howard County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV 26-062-063 based on the recommendations of planning staff and the findings as set forth in the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a discussion of this motion? Roll call vote. Marcus Major?
Yes.
Andrew Gribble?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Doug Tyson?
Yes.
William Vetchek?
Yes.
Daniel Clemens?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
And Joshua Zanger?
Yes.
Motion passes 9. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than August 26, 2026 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Moving on. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV-26-074, a preliminary plat for the Cardinal Crossing as outlined in the posted agenda. This is not a public hearing item. The planning staff will now give the staff report.
All right, this case is case DEV 26-074. It is a preliminary plat consideration of a property located at 17170 Leavenworth Road. The applicants are proposing to subdivide their land into 21 lots. There are 2 exceptions that are needed for this proposal. One is for lot 11 exceeding the 150-foot maximum building setback line. And the other one is for the road connectivity on Cardinal Crossing to the parcel that's going to the east. So that would be for this road right here, leads to this parcel. As a reminder, the exceptions are based upon the 3 criteria needed for the approval. You can find those within your staff report. The applicant is here to discuss the request further and to answer questions that you might have. With that, I am open to your questions.
Can you go back one page?
Any questions for Josh? Okay. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Yes, Joe Herring Surveying. The 2 exceptions, one is the setback again. That is to get to the proper build site. Still plenty of space behind it. Building envelope is the desired location. As for the connectivity going east, they are providing connectivity going north into a larger track. Connectivity going east in conversation, and I know this probably doesn't weigh on much information, but the neighbor to the east was in opposition of any access onto his property. He has access onto Leavenworth Road and did not want a side access into his property to invite people into his farming operation. So, and the developer, of course, was in favor of it. Lesser road, same amount of houses. So,
okay. Any questions? Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Any questions or comments from the members of the commission? Okay. I'll entertain a motion for the exception.
Why would we not want it to continue to connect to 171st? I mean, if it's part of the urban growth area, why would you not want to have as much connectivity as possible?
You can pull that.
This one or the next one?
That shows 171st. Does that go through?
175th was to the west.
Again, please.
Now, the 175th is to the west. It shows 171st to the east.
There is no road dedicated or directly east of this project.
Okay, so there's no road there.
Right. Correct.
Okay.
So it's 171st from the south of this property, end of this property, or does it not exist at all?
171st comes up from the south, but it dead ends at Leavenworth Road.
Okay.
It's not platted or dedicated to the north.
Yet.
Well, I'd ask what the transportation master plan looks like, but I'll keep my head down.
Dedicating that road was not a request of this planning commission or the planning staff.
I would still think that would make sense, because if that's a part of the urban growth, surely they would continue that road.
Well, I would
And it would then be already in place.
Is there an easement for it already?
You're not putting an easement in for when it ultimately gets built?
Let me jump in here. We won't allow easements for future road purposes. If you plat a roadway in a plat, you're going to build that road.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're going to ask other people off-site to build that road at a future date, which is not reasonable. So if you're platting and you're developing a specific parcel and you're platting a road, then you're going to have to build that road.
Was that ever in the original road records? It's never developed?
No, it would be reflected if it was.
I know you checked those, that's why I asked.
It had all the water drainage. I mean, there was tons and tons of paperwork on this showing all the research and study to get it to this point.
Mr. Chairman, I hereby recommend approval of an exception from Article 50, Section 40.2.a, road connectivity in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 26074, as submitted by the application based on a finding that all three criteria for an exception have been met.
Second.
Is there a discussion of the motion? Okay, do a roll call vote. Marcus Major?
Yes.
Andrew Gribble?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
William Gotchick?
Yes.
Daniel Clemens?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
And Joshua Zinger?
No. Why? Because I think that you should look deeper into the relationship of the road to the east, even if it's not platted right now.
Motion passes 8-1. You just want to know we need a reasonable exception and then we're off the...
Okay, I thought if I made a motion to deny, I would have to provide those, but to vote no, I didn't. But okay.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the other exception.
So this is the other one, the lot depth to width.
For the building setback line.
Back.
Setback.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of an exception from Article 3, lot depth defining building setback line in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 26-074 as is submitted by the application based on a finding that all three criteria for an exception have been met.
Second.
Is there a discussion of the motion? Do a roll call vote. Marcus Major?
Yes.
Andrew Gribble?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
William Gotchick?
Yes.
Daniel Clemens?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
And Joshua Zinger?
Yes.
That motion passes 9-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve the plat.
God dang. What is this thing got?
Mr. Chairman, I find that the subdivision request complies with the zoning and subdivision regulations and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV-26-074 based on the recommendation of the planning staff and the findings as set forth in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, is there a discussion of the motion? Roll call vote. Marcus Major,
Yes.
Andrew Gribble,
Yes.
Robert Owens,
Yes.
Steve Skeet,
Yes.
Doug Tyson,
Yes.
William Gotchick,
Yes.
Daniel Clemens,
Yes?
Jaden Bailey,
Yes.
and Joshua Zanger.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Okay, moving on, 13C. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV-26-089/90, a preliminary and final plat for Stranger Creek Ranch is outlined in the posted agenda. This is not a public hearing item. Planning staff will give the staff report.
All right, this case is case DEV 26-090. This is a preliminary and final plat consideration of a property located at 201st Street. The applicants are proposing to subdivide their land into 7 lots. There is only one exception that is needed, and that's for lots 2 through 7. Exceeding the lot depth to lot width ratio. The majority of the rear property on all the proposed lots are within the floodplain, creating a unique circumstance for the exceptions. As a reminder, exceptions are based upon those 3 criteria for approval. With that being said, I am open to questions, and the applicant is here to discuss the request further.
Does the applicant wish to speak?
Yes, Joe Herring Surveying. Again, the exceptions, as staff said, the floodplain and the steep terrain to the west creates with the depth issues, it's not developable property. So appreciate approval of those exceptions on those lots. And the property to the east, you also approved a plat. Very similar. This was just done in 2 phases. Thank you.
Is there any additional information?
No, sir.
Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I hereby recommend approval of an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3.I, lot depth to lot width in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 26-089090, as submitted by the application based on finding that all 3 criteria for an exception have been met.
Second.
Is there discussion of the motion? Roll call vote. Marcus Major,
Yes.
Andrew Gribble,
Yes.
Robert Owens,
Yes.
Steve Skeet,
Yes.
Doug Tyson,
Yes.
William Gotchick,
Yes.
Daniel Clemens,
Yes.
Jaden Bailey,
Yes.
and Joshua Zinger.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve the plat.
Mr. Chairman, I find that the subdivision request complies with the zoning and subdivision regulations and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV 26-08990 based on the recommendation of planning staff and the finding is set forth in the staff report.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Dan was first. Is there a discussion of the motion? Roll call vote. Marcus Major,
Yes.
Andrew Gribble,
Yes.
Robert Owens,
Yes.
Steve Skeet,
Yes.
Doug Tyson,
Yes.
William Gotchick,
Yes.
Daniel Clemens,
Yes.
Jaden Bailey,
Yes.
and Joshua Zinger.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than the August 26, 2026 at 9 a.m. in Leavenworth County Courthouse. Moving on, 13D. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV-26-095/096, a preliminary and final plat for the Avila Estates as outlined in the posted agenda. This is not a public hearing item. The planning staff will make a staff report.
All right, this case is case DEB 26-095 and 096. It is a preliminary and final plat for a cross-access easement consideration of a property located at 0000 Fairmount Road. The applicants are proposing to subdivide their land into two different lots. A lot depth to lot width exception is needed for both lots, and 1 and 2. One is it's exceeding the 1-to-1 ratio, and 2 is that it exceeds the 1-to-4 ratio. Those exceptions are based upon the 3 criteria needed for the approval, and they can be found within your staff report. If the exceptions were to be approved, it would be in conformance with regulations. Staff is supportive of this request. The applicant was unable to attend tonight. There was multiple different meetings that they all had to go to, so they weren't able to show up. However, with that being said, I am open to your questions.
Okay. Is there any additional information or questions of the staff? Is there any motion for the exception?
Mr. Chairman, I hereby move to approve an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3.I, lot depth to lot width in conformance to the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 26-095/096, as submitted by the application based on finding that all 3 criteria for exception have been met.
Is there a discussion? Roll call vote. Marcus Major?
Yes.
Andrew Gribble?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Doug Teisted?
Yes.
William Gutchick?
Yes.
Daniel Clemens?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
And Joshua Zinger?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve the plat.
Mr. Chairman, I find that the subdivision request complies with the zoning and subdivision regulations and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEB-26-095-096 based on the recommendations of the planning staff and the findings set forth in the staff report.
I second.
Is there discussion of the motion? Roll call vote. Marcus Major?
Yes.
Andrew Gribble?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Doug Teisted?
Yes.
William Gutchick?
Yes.
Daniel Clemens?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
And Joshua Zinger?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than August 26, 2026 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Moving on. 13E. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEB-26-091, special use permit for an auto service center and repair shop for Faster Dynamics as outlined in the posted agenda. This does require a public hearing. Public comment portion limited to 5 minutes. Planning staff will give the staff reports.
All right, this case is case DEB-26-091. This is the request to operate a auto service station and repair shop located at 20903 Georgia Road. This is a renewal of their previously approved SUP, which is Resolution 2023-17. The applicants now have actually built a shop on there, and they've been operating out of that location for approximately 3 years now. The applicant has stated that the operations will remain the same as they were previously approved for in 2023. Staff reviews these requests based upon the golden factors, and analysis of those factors are found within your staff report. The 8th golden factor is staff's recommendation. Staff recommends approval of this request with conditions. Those conditions can be found within your staff report or right up here on the screen. Staff categorizes this request as a Tier 3 SUP and recommends the SUP to be limited to a period of 5 years. This is only a recommendation, and you as the Planning Commission can change that period if you so choose to. With that being said, I am open to your questions, and the applicant is also here to answer questions that you might have.
Are these all the conditions, Josh?
Yes, and there's a second, sorry, I was meant to go to the second slide, but those are all the conditions, which is very similar to the previous resolution that they were approved for.
Are there any specific changes from the previous?
Other than the term limit, because the last SUP, they had it down for a 3-year term, and then now we upgraded it to a 5-year term, which I'm pretty sure the applicants are wanting to do longer.
So on opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion is now open. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Hello, my name is John Anderson. I live at 20861 George Road. I am right adjacent to that property, and I think they're wonderful neighbors, and we've never had a lick of problems from them. So I'd love to see this approved.
No applicant.
Is the applicant here?
I think the other one to get him.
I thought they said he had to be somewhere else.
No.
Hey,
I think that-
sir, can you come back up?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, from what I read, it looked like it was more classic auto build, classic versus your typical car repair shop. Is that?
I think there are. I've seen a number of classic automotive in there, but I also see some contemporary stuff.
I mean, it's not like your normal.
That's not the applicant.
I know, he's the neighbor, but he would know if there's like a lot of traffic. Wait,
Third-party observer.
There's not a lot of traffic that I know.
That's my point is when classic goes in, it's in there for months, you know, it's a classic.
Neighbors are
hard.
Some of them are in there an awfully long
See,
time.
that's what I'm saying.
Are you looking for a new car?
So it's not like your typical, you know.
No, it's not like the 1 hour oil change place.
Right. Yeah. Yes, he does. Thank you. Made my point.
Now he elected.
Now we got it. Okay.
Yeah. My name's Derek Hewlett. I'm pastor dynamics in Tonganoxie.
I can barely hear you, man. You got to bring that thing up to you.
My name's Derek Hewlett. I own Faster Dynamics in Tonganoxie, Kansas. We're full service automotive repair shop. We do a lot of classic car stuff, a lot of bigger projects. More engine change outs than I really care to admit because I don't like doing that, but it's a lot of work. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. Just trying to renew my special use permit so I can keep making a living.
When we met the last time in 2023, one of the questions that I had asked was about painting in a paint booth. If you've built a new building and you're still not painting, correct?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I remember when we granted this. Yeah. We brought that up. Do we have a map of the surrounding area? Can we see that? Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I was looking at future development. I think you're good for another 15 years.
Appreciate that.
Other than the paint shop, you do all the other services for Classic? I mean, do you do upholstery, mechanical, and all that?
No upholstery. We're just strictly mechanical.
Do you have any growth plans? Or are you pretty much where you want to be right now?
For the most part, I'm pretty much where I want to be. I mean, it'd be nice to have a helper or two for the workload, but we've gotten a little more popular than I intended on. So, I mean, good work and being honest with people goes a long ways.
Is it currently just you?
Mm-hmm.
Same as it was 3 years ago?
Yeah, same as it was. And I'm to the point where I could use a helper, but it is what it is. They're
you
hard
can't
to
find
come
a
by.
helper. There's the problem. Yeah. Where are you going to find a helper?
Yeah.
Did you have a requested length of SUP when you submitted?
Yeah.
I believe we requested 30 years. As long as you are willing to give us would be wonderful. My name is Lauren Hewlett. I am the office person who doesn't get paid.
The bookkeeper.
Yeah.
Put it this way, I plan on dying there, so.
I do have another question, and one of the conditions was there would be no outside storage. Do you get donor vehicles in when you're restoring Classic? I mean, a donor vehicle which you strip in order to replace parts on the car you're restoring?
Not really. The only couple of those I have gotten for like a motor or something like that, I've set an appointment date, have them bring it to me. I take what I need off, and then I make them take it back the same
so you
day
don't
or
have
two.
a metal pile or anything like
No.
that out back?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Nowhere in the narrative or anything does it restrict him if he finds an employee or two.
So in his narrative, he didn't actually ask for a employee on there. So we just left it the same as what it was on there with the conditions. But if that is a condition that you want to add to that, I mean, you can.
I just want to make sure he's not hindered.
Enabling, not restricting.
Yeah.
Yep.
To date, we've seen about 125% growth since last year when we actually opened the doors. So.
Congrats.
Thank you.
We need bigger than that.
It's only been 18 months.
There's a whole lot of cars over here. You know, we need bigger than that.
So, would we be out of line, guys, if we would extend that to 2 future employees and a term of 15 years on the SUP? Would everybody be in agreement of that?
I think my only question is, right now, the number of employees is not restricted, is that correct?
Yeah, there's no reason to put that.
Yeah.
So just
Okay, if there's no restriction, then we leave it no restriction.
So in his narrative, he just states that the only employee is himself, is the owner. So that, I mean, I guess that would be the only thing, because we're basing the approval or whatever it is off of the staff report and everything that was presented. So if you wanted to add employees onto there, then that would probably be a condition that you would want to add.
That's what I was asking. Yeah, because you might need an employee pretty soon.
2 would be acceptable to you, correct?
Yeah, 2
would be more than
would be
plenty.
plenty.
All right. So add 2 and or the possibility.
Yeah. I mean, you guys think that's out of, I mean, are we out of line asking for 2 employees in the next 15 years? I think we may be hindering him,
Well,
but
I think he needs to.
Well, if he gets that big,
Driver of that.
if he gets that big, we'll get him in the industrial park.
Yeah.
None of his-
Correct.
There we go.
We will no longer fit on that property.
Yeah, he needs.
Are you ASE certified?
Yeah, I'm an ASC Master Tech in a couple areas and EVT certified as well.
I just want to know where I take my Shelby.
Marcus, I think you and I are thinking along the same lines. It's at what point do you possibly run into an issue, maybe going to the county commissioners, because they'll say, you're at a size, it's fine, but you get bigger than that, you're going to need to go to industrial park.
Right.
And that's the reason why.
Well, the factor that also is neighbors have to complain to trigger that. So if nobody complains, no one's going to say
well,
anything.
and that's why I was looking at the land use map. It's not like we're going to bust anything up around him in the 1 or 2 acre lots in any time in the near future.
This is one of the reasons why we classify SUPs based on intensity of use, so that in the future, if they are successful and they do continue to grow at 100% a year, then at some point there's a break line. So again, an infinite term limit is, in our opinion, the staff's opinion, isn't wise. Check in again in 5 or 10 or whatever you decide to give them, to make sure that they're still on the same path, or if they've grown to a point where they really need to relocate into an appropriately zoned area.
Well,
I think.
Do you really want to? I mean, I own a small business. How much do you really want to grow? Do you really want to have 30 employees, or do you like it where you're hands-on and you got 1 or 2 helpers and you can control what you're doing?
I kind of like being able to control a little bit because I can control the quality that goes in and out.
Well, and in 15 years, we're not getting any younger. I don't anticipate continued monumental growth in our 60s.
Mr. Chairman, can we end discussion?
Yep. Ready for a motion?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
So we would still have to close the public hearing.
Still have got a few here.
Yeah, or if anybody else wishes to speak in favor or opposition.
Does anybody else wish to speak in opposition or favor? Thank you. Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Now close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the members of the commission?
Are we going to change the SUP?
How many years are we going to give him? That's the question.
I'll do it. Mr. Chairman, I find that the special use permit request complies with the golden factors and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV 26091 based on the recommendation of planning staff and the findings set forth in the staff report, with the amendment that we add the possibility of 2 extra employees and extend the limit or the length to 15 years.
Second that.
Is there a discussion of the motion? Roll call vote. Marcus Major?
Yes.
Andrew Girdle?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
William Gottschalk?
Yes.
Daniel Clemens?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
And Joshua Zinker?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Board of County Commissioners will now consider this item no earlier than September 2nd, 2026 at 9 a.m. in Leavenworth County Courthouse. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Moving on, 13F. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV-26-099, a rezoning request from RR5 to R2.5 as outlined in the posted agenda. This requires a public hearing. Public comment limited to 5 minutes per person. Planning staff will now give the staff report.
All right, this case is case DEV 26-099. This is a request to rezone a property located at 592 203rd Street from RR5 to RR2.5. The applicants did provide a concept plan where they are wanting to create 1 2.5-acre lot along their northern property line for a family member. The future land use of this property is identified as RR 2.5. The staff reviewed the request based off the 7 golden factors, which are needed in a rezoning request. Those factors and analysis can be found within your staff report. The applicant is here for questions. With that being said, I am open to your questions.
So, just so I'm straight, if we approve this, then the entire property goes to RR 2.5.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name or address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. Will the applicant come forward? No, the public comment is now, hearing is now open. Will the applicant come forward?
My name is Chris Rush. I live at 24592 203rd Street, Leavenworth. We're cutting out that portion for my daughter and my 2 grandkids. So if we can keep them by us.
What's your line?
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
We'll now, for anybody wishing to speak in favor of the request. Any individuals wishing to speak in opposition to the request? Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Public comment portion is now closed. Other questions or comments from the members of the commission? I'll entertain a motion on the request.
Mr. Chairman, I find that the rezoning request complies with golden factors and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV 26-099 based on the recommendation of planning staff and the findings as set forth in the staff report.
Second.
Is there a discussion of the motion? Roll call vote. Marcus Major?
Yes.
Andrew Gribble?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Doug Teisted?
Yes.
William Gotchick?
Yes.
Daniel Clemens?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
And Joshua Zane?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Kansas law allows for petition protesting decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 calendar days of the date of the public hearing. Additional information on the filing of protests can be obtained from the Office of Planning and Zoning. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than September 2nd, 2026. The commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and available for public view. 13G.
Mr.
Do you want to take a short break?
Please.
It's 15 minutes, so we'll come back at, well, let's say 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Middle school.
Okay, let's move on. 13G, the Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEB-26-100. Consideration of the 2026 language amendments as outlined in the posted agenda. This requires a public hearing. Public comment limited to 5 minutes per person. Planning staff, and I get a staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. 26-100 are amendments to Article 18 and 19 of the zoning regulations, adding a planned industrial zoning district and performance standards for battery storage systems. So we've had a number of work sessions over this particular item. I don't intend to read these to you verbatim tonight. I would ask if any of you have questions, I'll answer those up front. Any questions that come as a product of the public hearing, I'll be happy to answer those after the public hearing is closed in the interest of keeping the item moving forward. With that, I would answer any questions you may have as a product of reviewing the amendments. Are there any?
Questions now?
I have a general question, John. As a new zoning, there would be no current zoning under this in our county. And so an applicant would have to apply for something to be zoned into this.
They would have to apply for a rezoning, yes. They would have to go to this district if they intended to apply for one of the uses listed underneath it, yes.
And both for our commission and for our guests, could you summarize the steps in a request for a rezoning?
In this particular district, you're going to have to make application at the Planning Commission level. You will also have to submit a preliminary development plan. The preliminary development plan goes in conjunction with the rezoning request. If it makes, I can only go as loud as this will go.
Okay, I'm trying to keep it from here, so. All right. Yeah, so initially, an applicant would apply, obviously, at planning and zoning, and then it would move on to the planning commission level. You would have a preliminary development plan in conjunction with the rezoning. Those are tied together. And after that's approved, if it's approved, you move on to a final development plan. The final development plan must be in general conformance with the preliminary. From that, you have a comprehensive development agreement that is also filed should the final development plan be approved. Platting may be a component at the end of that process as well, if they intend to split up parcels. It's subject to a public hearing, just like a rezoning is, and then you make a recommendation as a body that moves on to the Board of County Commissioners. There's also the same protest period. There's also the same publication criteria.
Is there any mandate in those preliminary applications that they would have to provide any sort of independent locality-specific impact study with those?
Sure. If you take a look at the requirements, you will find a series of studies that are a requirement of the preliminary development plan.
And just to make certain that the speakers this evening understand, a PITD, a proposed industrial technology district, is minimum 400 acres. Is that correct?
It depends on the classification of center that you're going to put in. The largest center, yes, the minimum acreage is 400.
But I thought that we had, during the discussion, we had said that small and medium data centers could be in another zone district, such as regular industrial, as long as it had 10 acres.
There's 10-acre requirements, but anything other than this district required SUP, which in turn requires a public hearing, which also requires a development plan. So it is, in essence, the same thing. And if it's going to move to a different district, let's say MXD for a very, very small center, it's likely going to be a product of a larger development, and does occur on the smaller side of these types of centers. So it can be part of a larger development, but it still carries all these same criteria.
And we are considering both the data center requirements and the battery energy storage system requirements under the same DEV. Is that correct?
That's correct. They're going to be two separate articles, and we will first consider the data center requirements or the planned technology industrial district, and then move on to the battery energy storage systems.
So there'll be two votes, or one vote?
No, there'll be two votes. These are two separate things. We include them on a single development item, but they are two separate actions.
Okay. Thank you.
John, is it true that we do not have any submissions that are under consideration? This is just the regulations that we're looking at tonight.
That's correct, sir. We are not in receipt of any formal application at this time. We are simply looking at regulations tonight, and that's all.
But if we don't put this into place of some kind of regulations, then it's a free-for-all, and there is no regulations.
As has happened.
All these people here are going to be really upset if we don't set in tone this language that stipulates if you were to try to come into our area, right?
This very thing has happened in a number of places across the country.
Because they didn't have stipulations or regulations like we're putting in place.
Right. Yeah. They put them in an existing zoning district and attempted to put criteria over an SUP process, and that really, in my opinion, doesn't work for every center that's out there. So again, this isn't approving any center. This simply is approving regulations that would guide any future applicant in any site in Leavenworth County. Any other questions?
And the regulation is more for your staff so you can judge submissions, whether they comply with the regulations or not.
It's that, and it's also to establish guidelines for your review as it goes through your process and at the governing body's process.
I just want to make it clear to the audience what we're doing tonight, that's all.
Sure, and again, the development plan process requires them to have a substantial submittal, and they're held to that particular development plan as they move through the process. The development agreements are the finite elements of any particular any particular project, and those also run with the land. They do not run from person to person. They're filed at the end of that final development agreement and filed with the final development plan. So they run with the land, not the owner.
And the regulation does have a process and a procedure for all of this, how to, there it is, up on the screen for the people. The process includes what they have to do.
Yes.
In order to come before the Planning Commission and ultimately then to the Board of County Commissioners.
Yes.
After a lot of steps.
Right.
I mean, they're going to come back to us several times.
There will be a substantial amount of submittal before it's even a accepted application.
Right. And right now there's zero.
Right now there's zero. Any other questions? Okay. One thing I would ask from a staff level, whomever comes up to speak, please sign in prior to speaking. So if someone's speaking and you're going to speak next, please take the pad and sign in. Amy will get it to you.
Okay, we ready?
I'm not sure everybody, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure everybody knew what tonight was, which was to set regulations and policies in place versus voting and allowing different things coming into our county.
Yeah, the vote tonight is no set on the data center itself.
I understand your point, but also this is our opportunity for it to act like a filtering mechanism. So before you put that mechanism in place, you want to curate and fine-tune it to a point that is as restrictive as you desire it to be.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yes, sir, Commissioner Bailey. You and I are on the same sheet.
It has to be three things, just to be clear.
Speak up. I'm trying to get there. Has to be three things primarily. Any regulation, any rule that you enact has to be three things. It has to be reasonable, and it cannot be arbitrary and capricious. Those three elements. Because that will not survive the legal process if they are any one of those, against any one of those three, just to be clear.
And our legal staff has reviewed this as written.
Yes, we have reviewed it, and we've also had outside counsel review it.
Okay. So if we were to vote to send this to the Board of County Commissioners tonight, all the legal reviews are in.
Well, I'm going to give you a lawyer answer. We can always do more. So
no, I
if you
understand
ask
that,
for,
but I mean, so we don't have to look at you if we vote to send it to the Board of County Commissioners. We don't have to look at you and say, "Is that okay?"
Correct. We've reviewed it as it is. If you make amendments to tonight and suggestions, then we'll have additional considerations, and I might chime in.
Thank you. I'll shut up now.
Thomas? Did get that right? Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. I would just like to add, there's a lot of you here, and everybody's going to have a lot to say. If somebody else before you says something you agree with, but you want your name on record, just come up, state your name and your address, and just say that you agree with whomever came before you. That way more people can get up to the podium. Also, we are focusing more on the language of this amendment. We're not focusing on the data center. We're not focused on what they're going to do to the surrounding area. We're focused on the language itself that we've been talking about in other meetings. That being said, we're now ready for listening.
Can we hear from anybody for it?
Anybody for this data information? Didn't think so.
Let the record show, no.
I'm not sure they all read it.
Any wish to opposition of this language?
Good evening. My name is Jim Croskin. I live at 24542 Cantrell Road in Tonganoxie. I've lived in
the county this time for 16 years at my current residence. There are 13 more people that are behind me tonight to speak to you as a group, so I'll try to keep this short. We're asking you to take tonight action option 3. That's the third choice your staff put in front of you on page 180 in the rules tonight, which states, continue the public hearing to another date, time, and place. We're not asking you to kill these regulations. We're asking you not to finish them tonight. The first reason, which concerns me, your staff report says that cases cover 3 amendments. Article 18, Section 5, Article 18, Section 6.6, and Article 19, amending the use tables to accommodate the proposed districts. I read the packet this weekend. Could have had other things to do, had a lot of other things to do, but I read it. The words Article 19 appear exactly one time in the whole document, in the line that announces the amendment, and then nothing follows. The use tables are the part that matters to someone like me. That's what tells people whether the thing is going to, that lives next to him, it needs a hearing or just a building permit. And that text isn't in front of you tonight. I don't know whether this was an oversight on what the staff did, but I'm not going to guess. But I hope you can't vote on something that nobody can see. Second reason, there's no rush. Mr. Jacobson said that. He wrote in his opening memo on August 6th that was sent to you guys on Friday, and we all were able to see on page 182, while there are currently no active applications for a data center development, no application, no clock is running, no developer is sitting out in the hallway waiting on us to push this. You've already been shown what little time this does. The noise number in the draft was 85 decibels back in June. We made a stink about it. Then it went to 75, and tonight it's at 65. That's progress, and we appreciate the progress. We have a lot more to do, though. Let me tell you who's coming up. Robin is going to talk about whether there are rules that will let you make the findings of your own regulations required when somebody does apply. Kevin and Richard will go into the Leavenworth County Comprehensive Plan. Janice went through what changes took place between July and August. Lori found some places where the draft contradicts itself. Denise, Tammy, Dee, and Kim have found the sound and power generation issues. John Holsey will tell you what this will look like, what it looks like in other towns. Tammy has 3 specific fixes she will be asking for. What we're saying is that the rules you write tonight are going to be the rules for 20 years. And they're not finished, guys. So, option 3, continue the hearing, hold a work session, put Article 19 language in front of the public, and come back. Thank you for your time. I know you guys don't make much money at this, in fact, none. We appreciate what you're doing, because this isn't easy. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Robin Perkins. I reside at 20880 Stayard Road. We're in District 3. We're located about 1.5 miles from Tailgate Ranch. My husband, Brian, recently retired from active duty service after serving over 20 years in the Army. And now we operate Trinity Forever Farm, where we have over 70 livestock animals under our care with a focus on those adorable, fluffy Highland cattle. I'm also an attorney. I'm a partner at your outside counsel firm, Kutak Rock. However, today I'm here in my personal capacity. There's a lot that I wish I had time to say, but given the very strict time constraints, I'm going to focus on just 2 regulations I would like for you to consider. Article 31, Section 3 of the zoning regulations lists 8 things you must consider when you approve or disapprove rezoning. They were mentioned earlier today. 1, character of the neighborhood. 2, zoning and use of nearby property. 3, suitability of the property for the use it's restricted to. 4, how much removing those restrictions will hurt nearby property. That's a big one. How long the property has sat vacant as zoned, the negative gain to economic development, and importantly, to public health, safety, and welfare. Conformance to the comprehensive plan, another one very important to me, and of course your staff's recommendation. Then again, in Article 22, Section 6, you're required to consider those same 8 things for a special use permit. And I understand that tonight is about trying to be proactive with the text amendment, given the anticipated data center applications. However, there is no application before you tonight. Nothing needs to be cited tonight. Today, if someone submits a rezoning application, findings on all 8 of those categories need to occur. But if you adopt the staff proposal as drafted, those 8 categories are no longer considered. Do the proposed amendments give you the same information that is traditionally needed for your thorough evaluation? Take number 4, the detrimental effect on nearby property. I searched the data center standards for the word emissions. It isn't there, not once. Air permit, not there. KDHE, not there. There's no nighttime noise limit and nothing that requires calculating the combined sound disturbances that are going to come from the data center, the battery plant, and the power plant taken together. If a neighbor stands up and asks you, how will this affect their property, you have nothing to point to. Number 7 is conformance to the comprehensive plan. The future land use plan has 6 categories in it, and not one of them is industrial. The only industrial reference in the whole thing is a note that existing industrial zoning along the river bottoms will be maintained. Before moving here, we researched the area's comprehensive plan and future land use plan. We did that to ensure we were purchasing property that would be safe to operate our ranch. We were pleased to see there was no industrial use planned. How does a planned industrial technology district conform to a plan with no industrial category? I'm asking. I honestly don't know that answer. There's a state law worth noting. Under KSA Section 12-757, an amendment that's in accordance with the comprehensive plan is presumed to be reasonable. But that presumption is worth having because it's earned by actually conforming with the current plan. I would argue this one does not. If there's a gap between the plan and the district, the county is the one who has to carry it. And here's the part that worries me the most. The biggest facilities in the new district will be permitted by right. By right means no special use permit, which means nobody makes the Article 22 findings, and no rezoning, which means nobody makes Article 31 findings. For the largest projects, those 8 considerations never happen. Not because someone skipped over them, because the proposed ordinance as drafted eliminates consideration of those factors. Your report gives you 3 options. The first 2 both say with findings of fact. If you recommend approval tonight, please put very detailed findings in writing. Say which of these gaps you looked at and why you decided they were acceptable. It is important that a clear and detailed record is made. However, what I would rather you do is choose option 3, continue it, and give yourselves the tools and time to make improvements to this proposal. This will benefit everyone later, and there's simply no need to rush this process, as there isn't even an application pending before you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Grove. I reside at 16399 222nd Street in Tonganoxie. I retired from the food and dairy industry about 3 years ago, moved to Leavenworth County in June of 2025. We built a home at this address, which is directly across the road from the proposed data center site. I want to talk about 2 things that your regulations tell you to consider, and I'm going to talk about the way they would affect us and how it looks from a farm perspective. I grew up on a farm, dairy, wheat, and cows, and so I have a pretty good idea on farming. I'm sorry. First one is how much this hurts property next door. The zoning article 31 calls it the extent to which removing the restrictions will detrimentally affect nearby property. So I went through the standards that you were given and looked for what protects the neighbor. Here's what I found. There is a setback. There is a berm requirement. There's a sound limit at the property line. but it's the same number around the clock, 24 hours a day, nothing new at night, or nothing reduced at night. And there's a landscaping requirement. Here's what I didn't find. Nothing about emissions. Any requirement that a generating plant would have a further setback from a property line. And also there's, then maybe the warehouse, and any obligation to measure the sound maybe in actual residences versus the property line. We all know sound travels, and it might be different at an actual residence than it is at the property line. And then there's the penalty section, which is new to this regulation. It's called Section U, and I'll read it to you. It's pretty short. The site developer and its operators shall enter into a development agreement with the AHJ, which is the authority having jurisdiction, to establish minimum performance standards or thresholds of site performance. These standards and penalties will be included in the executed development agreement. That's it. That's all for penalties that are listed. So the standard that actually protects myself and other neighboring properties or the city of Tonganoxie is not in the ordinance. It's going into a contract that gets negotiated later between the county and the developer, and we won't have a chance to participate in that negotiation. Neither will you, likely. So I couldn't tell you today what a violation is, even under these rules, or what it costs, or whether anything can be done about it. Nobody can, because it hasn't been written yet. Something about, I'd like to say about turbines and how it might affect us close. And a gas energy plant a mile from my residence, what it might do to livestock, their horses, dogs, pets, and also do hay and have corn and soybeans. I've heard people say things, I'm not going to repeat them because there is no support for it, and I don't want to be overstated. But what I can tell you, the ordinance doesn't require anybody to study it either. There's no listed study to see what the effects will be. That's the gap I'm concerned about. Second thing is, as far as zoning, suitability of the land and how long it's sat vacant. We all know the Tailgate Ranch, the proposed site isn't vacant. It's a working ranch. It's been grazed by cattle for many years and supports a cow-calf operation very well. The cows seem to be happy. And yes, the data center pays much more than ranching, as do a lot of things. But if that's a test for how it's stated in the comprehensive plan that says preserving agriculture as a primary function of the rural growth area, that's not a good test. Farming data is not preserving agriculture. Here's what they've done over in Cass County, Missouri, just across the board. They capped the data center footprint at 200 contiguous acres. They limit grading on the prime farmland to 5% of the site and require the design to accommodate livestock grazing and row crops on the same land while the data center is running. No bans, and they decided the farm doesn't have to disappear. You can keep it. So what I'm asking, if you look at this, the regs put before you and ask for action option number 3, which continue this, take another look, and take your time. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Richard Paz, 17715 Michaels Road in rural Leavenworth County. I had the privilege of serving in the Army 30 years and got to retire from Oahu, Hawaii, back to the best hometown in America, which is Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. And I'm a little biased, but I believe Leavenworth County is the best county in America. We live in the Garden of Eden, and I think any economic development should be commensurate with the character of its county and its people. The chairman speaks, members of the commission. I want to begin with the county's own words. At the January 14th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting, during what was actually a 10-year renewal of an existing special use permit, not a rezoning, a commissioner asked the staff about the option to rezone that property, a crane rental business zoned RR5. The planning director's answer, recorded in those minutes and published in the February 11th agenda for the Planning and Zoning Commission agenda, was direct. Quote, "That situation is referred to as a spot zoning for an industrial use. It would be extremely difficult to accomplish because it wouldn't match the future land use plan, and there would likely be infrastructure challenges." Close quote. 2 reasons were given: conflict with the future land use plan and infrastructure. Both apply here with the PITD with far more force. The developer's own public estimate for this project is approximately 1.2 gigawatts, comparable to Wolf Creek, the only nuclear plant in Kansas, which provides power at 1,200 megawatts. If industrial rezoning was extremely difficult for a small contractor's yard, I would like to understand how it became routine through a PITD for a 1,000-acre and at a gigawatt scale. Article 4 of the county zoning regulations describes the rural growth area as intended for very low-density development with the preservation of agriculture as its primary function. Target 3 of the comprehensive plan directs the county to concentrate industrial development in, quote, in areas where utility infrastructure networks are available or easily extended, close quote. The PITD's draft own authorization of on-site gas turbines answers that target itself. Gigawatt scale service isn't available here, so the project must build its own power plant. So in essence, I don't know if people realize you're getting a power plant with a data center attached to it. Within the technology district itself, a data center of any size is permitted by right, including what this draft defines as a large-scale data center, anything over 100 megawatts. Special use review applies only to the small and medium data centers, only in other districts. The largest use gets the least review, and I think that's been pointed out. The land use plan anticipated something like this. It recommends 4 escalating categories of special use permit, and the county didn't just recommend that framework, it adopted the same 4 categories in the same language into Article 22, Section 9 of the zoning regulations. Type 2 covers utilities, quote, out of character to the land uses in the immediate vicinity, close quote. Type 4 covers uses that are, quote, largely industrial operations that frequently generate hazardous or intense nuisance factors, close quote. This district does the opposite of that rule. It moves the most intense use to the least review, in our estimation. But to be fair, the comprehensive plan, and it says so itself, is its designations aren't themselves legally binding, and I'm not implying that the PITD is illegal or anything like that. But plan conformance is one of the 8 matters your regulations require you to consider, as was said by Robin. State law gives an amendment that accords with the plan a presumption of reasonableness, as the director said. It does not give that presumption to one that doesn't. That's a benefit of the county simply would not have, and the Kansas Supreme Court has said the plan conformance should not be overlooked. And there's also an unresolved gap in the packet, which Jim talked about in reference to Article 19. There is nothing there. So how can we approve a plan in which you are missing crucial information that would simultaneously be available to the public to see what the language is and what meaning it conveys as far as what this regulation seeks to do? So in conclusion, based upon this analysis, I recommend, as others have, to vote for option 3, to continue the public hearing to another date, perhaps a work session. We only received these, well, we were at the first session, and then we received these late last week. But I think the team's done a hell of a job assessing it. And I think we should provide that opportunity both to the staff and yourselves to do the same. Thank you.
Should I go? Good evening. I'm Janice Bernhardt. I live at 22927 Wood End Road. I'm a half mile from this potential project. And we have compared the July 8 draft with the August 12th final version, provision by provision. There are 13 changes. 7 made the proposal stronger, 1 made it weaker, and 5 were ambiguous or just structural. I would like you to see the whole pattern before you act. The improvements are real. 1, the property line sound limit moved from 75 to 65 decibels. 2, the backup utility generation definition now bars primary power and bridging power. 3, large-scale treatment now reaches any campus over 100 megawatts, even if its footprint is under 100,000 square feet. 4, the small and medium categories now use clear size and energy boundaries instead of the word typically. I think I'm on 5. Cooling and heating must be closed-loop, waterless, or more efficient systems. And the dangling sentence about Kansas Corporation Commission correspondence became an actual filing requirement. But the final draft still has no provisions on decommissioning, financial security bonds, emissions, air permits, stack setbacks, cumulative assessment, revocation, or real enforcement penalty. It has no nighttime sound standard, no sea weight, low-key frequency metric, and no expansion trigger. Those gaps have survived 2 rounds of public comment unchanged. The weak provision, the purpose statement said prior that the standards would limit the impact of data centers and associative uses on surrounding land uses. The final draft deletes the words and associative uses, while the same draft continues to authorize associated generation substations and battery storage. The purpose was narrowed while the associated uses stayed. The clearest illustration of the structural problem is how differently this packet treats battery storage and data centers. In this same document, the battery energy storage section gained a full section on decommissioning, restoration, abandonment, financial security. It requires a decommissioning agreement with the board before any construction begins. It treats the system as abandoned after 1 year without storing or providing energy, and it lets the county use escrow bond or policy proceeds to decommission it. The battery section also now requires emergency response guide coordinated with the fire department and emergency management, approved by the emergency management director and developed under NFPA standards. It adds the transfer approval process requiring board approval and a $5,000 transfer fee. It adds indemnification and insurance requirement running to $25 million in the aggregate. It adds substantial restrictions on heavy metals and stacking enclosures on the Tier 3 systems and dedicated use buildings. Those protections are not hypothetical. They are written into this packet, for a battery yard. The data center section, which may govern a campus of roughly 1,000 acres, received 2 sentences. Section U, titled Penalties. No decommissioning plan, no financial security, no abandonment trigger, no insurance amount, no emergency response plan, no transfer approval. That is the double standard, and it is the same document by the same author at the same time. The county has demonstrated that it knows how to write these standards. It wrote all of it for smaller use and none of it for the larger one. I'm not asking you to reject data centers. I'm asking for the same risk management tools the county has already drafted for related industrial use in this same packet. Staff says no application is pending, so nothing is lost by taking time. So I would request that you take action option 3, continue this hearing, hold a work session, and direct staff to extend battery storage, decommissioning, financial security, insurance, emergency response, and transfer approval provisions to the data center before this ordinance returns. Thank you.
Hopefully I can reach this thing in short. Chairman Spink and members of the commission, I want to thank you for your work on this.
Need your name and address.
Yeah, I'm just going to do that. Okay. Lori Putoff at 21686 219th Street, Tonganoxie, Kansas. I have 3 points. I'll keep it brief. First, I want to, again, as another speaker mentioned, compliment you on the rewrite on the backup utility generation section. I think that it's good. You've got that it's not going to function as a primary or a bridging source. It's independent of the public grid. It only operates as a temporary measure, emergency, when primary is down. You heard the concern that we had about backup generation becoming a primary power source, and you addressed it, you closed that door. Unfortunately, you left another door wide open. Under the definition of power generation facilities, which follows that, that's wholly unchanged. It still includes that the systems supporting all or a portion of the campus, and that's quote, all or a portion, of the electrical requirements, it still names natural gas-fired turbines and reciprocating engines. It still allows these facilities to be owned or operated by one or more entities, and it still includes the phrase, quote, privately controlled utility-grade generation, end quote. So you tightened up the definition of backup power, but left untouched the primary power generation that supports all or part of the campus load. Those are two different things. One was fixed. Power generation should be tightened up. Second, the term power generation facilities only appears in the heading for that definition. It's not on a permitted use list. It's not on a special use list. It's not on a prohibited use list. There is no defined setback, no height limit, no separate review, no procedure, nothing. The ordinance defines a category of critical infrastructure, and it never says what to do with it. The definition by itself of power generation facilities doesn't authorize anything. It doesn't prohibit anything. It's created a term with no home, and terms with no home get sorted out by whoever's in the office of the planning office that day, excuse me. And that's what happens when the text is silent. Third, and it was touched on a little bit by Janice, compare what you had under power generation facilities with the comprehensive wording that was included in the battery storage section. Battery storage got its own dimensional criteria, has a 100-foot setback, has a 300-foot setback if the adjacent property is residential, has the decommissioning agreement, the financial security agreement, an emergency response guide that has to be approved by the emergency management director, has an insurance floor of $25 million, has rules about the enclosure stacking and heavy metals. That's great. Did a good job there. But it shows that you knew how to draft, to regulate a piece of the energy infrastructure. You did it for batteries. You just need to do it for the primary power generation facilities. It's a contradiction. It needs to be reworked and finished. I would just ask before you vote that you set plainly whether a power generation facility is permitted in the district, or if it needs a special use permit, or if it isn't allowed. Then put that answer in the use table. If it's allowed, define the setback and a review path, just as you did for battery storage. So that's a couple of hours of reworking this draft. It's better to do it now than trying to do it after the fact, and because an amendment would be required. So I ask that you choose action option 3 to continue this to another date to get that reworking done. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Denise McCullough. I live at 23059 DeHoff Drive. I live just a little over a mile west of the Tailgate Ranch, the proposed site. I have a small farm raising cattle and goats. I'm going to talk a little bit about the decibels tonight. The proposed sound limit has moved 3 times in 8 weeks. 85 dBA in the June 10th board packet, 75 dBA in the July 8th Planning Commission packet, and 65 dBA in the final version before you. dBA means A-weighted decibels, the measurement this draft uses. The county deserves credit for lowering that number, and we thank you. And I want to explain why the size of that change is larger than it sounds, and why this number still needs an explanation. Decibels are logarithmic. That has not been said in this process, and everything else depends on it. 10 decibels is not a small step. It is 10 times the acoustic energy. Every 10 decibel reduction removes 90% of the permitted acoustic energy. Going from 85 to 65 removed 99% of it. That's a 100-fold change. Here is what the current number means. A 65 dBA limit permits 100 times the acoustic energy of 45 decibels, and about 10 times the sound pressure and roughly 4 times the perceived loudness. A change from 65 to 55 would be a tenfold reduction in energy, not a 10-unit adjustment. And here's a point about that trajectory. The number came down 100-fold in 8 weeks on the strength of public comment with no acoustic study entering the record. That is to the county's credit. It also means the number was never derived from analysis, which is exactly why the current one deserves the same scrutiny the first two received. The draft keeps a potentially protective tonal clause. A tonal sounds a steady, distinct pitch, like a transformer hum, as a good example. So this protective clause requires an automatic 10 dBA decrease if the required study cannot prove there is no tonal content. The arithmetic is simple. If the base limit is 65 and the tonal reduction applies, the effective limit is 55 dBA. That is significant, and it puts the tonal clause inside the range pair jurisdictions use. But it only applies if the applicant's own study cannot prove the absence of tonal content. The draft does not define tonality, does not specify a recognized method, and does not name a post-construction verifier. As it is written, it is conditional and hard to enforce. Please make it automatic and define it. There is also a distance question. The World Health Organization's night noise guidelines set 40 decibels outside as a target level to protect the public, including the most vulnerable groups. Under standard acoustic spreading, 65 decibels at a 300-foot property line falls to roughly 40 decibels about 1 mile. Tonganoxie is about a mile from the site and has been discussed. Area schools are about 1.1 miles. That places the town at or near the distance where 40 decibel nighttime guideline is finally reached. No site-specific noise study exists in this record. But that is the point. 65 dBA all hours property line limit can have consequences well beyond a fence line when the sound is continuous at night and no one has modeled it. The draft improved the headline number and added nothing else. No nighttime tier, no low frequency companion metric, no defined consequence for exceeding the limit. So I'm here tonight to ask you to choose action option 3, continue this hearing, hold a work session, require an evidence-based separate nighttime noise limit before this ordinance returns. There are no active applications, so nothing is delayed by getting this right. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lee Hungerbeeler. I live at 21549 187th Street in Tonganoxie. As been pointed out a number of times, 65 decibels is much better than 85 decibels, and we're very grateful that that adjustment's been made. But then I'd like to talk to you about why the number by itself doesn't necessarily protect anybody. There are 4 things missing currently from the sound section, and I'll address them one at a time. Number 1, there's no consideration for nighttime adjustment. One limit covers all 24 hours. 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the morning get treated the same. Every peer ordinance that I could find starts at around 65 decibels or higher and pairs it with a lower night number. Adairsville, Georgia starts at 65 decibels during the day, 55 at night. Columbia County, Arkansas has the same split. Clifton Township, Pennsylvania, 67 decibels and 57 at night. Columbiana, Alabama, also 67 and 57. The World Health Organization night noise guidance is built entirely around nighttime exposure because that's when your sleep is getting wrecked. If this passes as written, Leavenworth County would be the only one on this list with no night standard. Number 2, there's no low frequency measurement. Everything currently in this draft is A-weighted. A-weighting is built to match how the ears hear speech, so it deliberately discounts the low end. At 63 hertz, it subtracts more than 26 decibels. That means that deep hum from the cooling equipment and turbines, the sound that travels furthest and goes straight through the walls, is the one that the metric currently registers. A tone that reads 65 decibels on an A-weighted meter can be over 90 decibels unweighted down at 63 hertz. Cass County, Missouri has handled this with a C-weighted limit. 50 decibels C weighting at every property line. The Kentucky Resources Council model uses both 45 decibels A-weighted and 65 decibel C-weighted during the day and 40 or 60 at night. Your draft currently mentions that the narrowband frequency analysis in the study requirements, but never establishes at what point they've reached a violation. Number 3, there's nothing that adds anything up. The word cumulative doesn't appear anywhere in these standards, not once. Sound adds logarithmically, it's a tongue twister, which means a data center that complies, plus battery storage that complies, plus a generating plant that complies, can still put you over that at the fence line. 35 identical sources produce a level about 15 decibels higher than one of them. 15 decibels is 30 times the energy. So you can approve a site where every single piece passes and the property line fails, and nobody has done anything wrong. Number 4, and this is the one that matters the most. Nothing happens if they exceed it. Section U is the new penalty section, and it reads, the site developer and operators shall enter into a development agreement with the authority having jurisdiction, the AHJ, to establish minimum performance standards or thresholds of site performance. These standards and penalties will be included in the executed development agreement, the DA. No definition of a violation, no dollar amount, no cure period, no revocation, no statement that a complaint triggers a measurement or where that measurement gets taken. Compare that to Adairsville, which said $1,000 a day, or Columbia County, Arkansas, where a violation is a misdemeanor, and the county can order operations to cease. Those are enforceable. Section U is a promise to create a standard later in a contract that likely most of the public may never see. I do want to credit one thing, because it's genuinely good. This draft requires a 24-hour publicly available sound monitoring. That's better than most places have. But as written, nothing follows from what it shows. I ask that you please fix these 4 missing items, and you'll have a workable sound standard. I believe it requires an additional work session, so I also request that you choose option 3. Thank you.
Good evening. Dee Carlskint, 24542 Cantrell Road, Tonganoxie. I've got 11 amendments I'd like to see made to the sound section. I can't read 11 things in 5 minutes, so I've handed a written copy to the secretary, and I'd ask that it go in the record. I'm going to cover 6 of them. Before I start, one thing about all of them, every single one has already been adopted somewhere, or it's in a published model ordinance. I'm not asking this county to invent anything or to be first at something. First, add a night limit, at least 10 decibels below the day number. Second, add a C-weighted or octave band limit next to the A-weighted one, so the low-frequency hum actually gets measured. Cass County, Missouri uses 50 dBc at every property line. That's in the Kansas City Metro, just next door to us. Third, make the tonal reduction automatic and define what tonal means by naming a standard. Right now, the ordinance says the reduction applies if you study can't prove no tonal content, and it never defines tonal content or says who decides. Fourth, your regulations already require an ambient sound survey with an application. Ambient just means the background sound that's out there today, so the county is already going to have that number in hand. But nothing in the ordinance ever uses it. You collect it and file it. Archibald, Pennsylvania takes that same measurement and turns it into the rule. Project sound can't exceed measured pre-construction ambient by more than 5 decibels at any residential lot line within 2,500 feet. long-term survey from the American National Standards Institute, paid for by the applicant, and going over is a violation. That's the most reasonable thing on my list, and here's why. It doesn't cost the county $1. It doesn't require a new study. You already are collecting the measurement. This just puts it to work, and it starts from a fact about the specific place instead of a number somebody picked. Fifth, require the sound study to model the data center, the batteries, and any generating plant together as one source. The word cumulative isn't in these standards anywhere. Sixth, say out loud that the sound limit applies to power generation facilities and add a setback for exhaust stacks. The Kentucky Resources Council model puts any emission point or exhaust stack at least 1,000 feet from the adjacent property boundary and 2,000 feet from a sensitive use or residential, commercial, or agricultural district. And it applies that to primary and backup power both. The other 5 are a written list. Briefly, there are an enclosure standard for generators, which Cass County does with a concrete barrier, 2 feet above the unit or 10 feet minimum testing limits, which Cass County caps at 2 hours a day, once a week, and never between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. Recurring verification and as-built studies 6 to 9 months after it's running, and annual studies after that. A real definition of violation with a penalty and a cure period, and a consequence attached to the public monitoring website. Cass County adopted theirs in April of last year for this same industry on the same kind of farmland in the same metro area. Their regulations are 20 pages. Ours are about 4. I'm not asking you to copy Cass County. I'm asking you to read it before you vote, and that means continuing this hearing, option 3. And I just want to say that I've got an MBA, so I've been in business, but I've devoted my entire career to medicine. The last 24 years, I was in pharmaceutical sales. I know about regulations, and I know what harms people. And if you don't get the total noise right, a lot of people are going to be harmed. Appreciate your time. Thanks.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Kim Culvert. I live at 2325 East Sycamore Street in Tonganoxie. And what I want to do... okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. I won't be able to look at you then. What I want to address is something you've already heard about a little bit. The TD draft includes a type further defined called power generation facilities, and the language of this is questionable. It raises some concerns, and they ought to be addressed prior to any vote that you have. So the definition, just briefly, appears to describe privately controlled utility-grade generation of part or all of the power needed for a data center using natural gas-fired turbines and or reciprocating engines. Now, this raises some questions for me. As soon as I decided, so, well, if it's partial, does that mean that generation of those turbines will go 24/7 all the time? Because it's just partial, so they're going to have to run it all the time. This becomes a continuous use natural gas facility. There's nothing in there about how many pieces of equipment can be used, how many turbines, what types, how much acreage can be in a particular field, what's the megawattage, is there a cap on megawattage, no pollution control or other equipment specifications are anywhere in that power generating facility statement. The statement also, the definition also locates such facilities on the data center site or an adjacent parcel or on a coordinated development area, which is not defined in the document. Coordinated with what or with whom? What's a coordinated area? It's never defined anywhere. So what does that mean? I can't imagine you just throw out something and you wouldn't have something specific in mind. Apparently not. Okay, it permits ownership and or control by one or more entities, but does not address the nature of these entities. Could one of the entities be a public utility Or is it only private entities that counts? And if it's a public utility that co-owns and operates this particular set of turbines, how does that affect permitting, financing, and liabilities? If you've got something you're owning with a public utility and you're a private owner, that's got to start getting messy. And if you're going to do that, you got to have something there to make it work. It also states that privately controlled utility grid generation shall not utilize nuclear facilities. Okay. Now, does that mean that a public utility cannot sell the data center energy from a nuclear power plant? Because that's what it reads like. And let's say the public utility is a co-owner. Can they build on the property as long as they don't give it to the data center and sell it to another data center? It's very poorly conceived. That sentence is just wholly open to a massive amount of interpretation. And let's also be clear about definitions. A definition alone does not guarantee legal use, and that phrase, power generation facility, is not tied to any use classifications. If you go through the rest of the document, there are some relative phrases that appear in other definitions. And those definitions are like, the best one is in the data center site improvement, which specifically mentions on-site power generation and storage and sites a natural gas power plant. And that's an example. But none of these definitions fit the power generation definition. And interestingly, the only place you find a definition of a data center accessory is in the definitions, and it mentions backup, but not main power. Section 1, subsection 3 of the draft identifies data centers and accessory uses as permitted uses by right. SUPs don't fit. There's no power generation associated with that. So you can't get an SUP for the power generation. It is stuck as a permission by right. But guess what? You can't find any place where it's tied to anything. So how can you be sure? There's one little thing in subsection 5 that identifies permitted accessory uses, and it talks about a power supply. And that's the only place you find it in the document. Same as everybody else, option 3.
Good evening. Russ Dent, 23120 DeHoff Drive, Tonganoxie. I'm going to read to you, and some of this has been kind of briefly talked about, but I'm going to read 2 sentences from this draft. They are in conflict of each other and don't say the same thing. The county needs to decide which one controls before you vote. The first sentence is in the sound standard. It says, except for generator testing or commissioning activities, generator use should be limited to backup emergency use only. That describes their emergency equipment. The second is the definition of power generation facilities about 2 pages earlier. It says the facilities are intended to support all or a portion of the data center campus's electrical requirements, whether delivered directly or indirectly, through an electric utility or grid arrangement. It names natural gas-fired turbines and reciprocating engines. It allows ownership by one or more entities. And the only technology it rules out is nuclear, as you've heard. So one sentence says emergency only. The other describes generation that can carry all or part of the campus load all day, every day. The ordinance never says whether the sound rule covers all generation or only the small emergency units. The document implies that it is referring to emergency generator equipment, since that is referred to in the sound section of the proposed standard. A rule written for a generator that runs when the power goes out is not the same as a rule for business running as normal operations. If the county means 2 different things, the ordinance should say where the line is and what review each side of it gets. Now let me give you something you can check yourself for tonight, and I think you've probably heard some of this. When you search this document, you see nothing of emissions are not mentioned, not once. Air permit, KDHE, BACT, which is best available control technology, never mentioned. These terms are absent in the text. It would be irresponsible to approve these standards that specifically these standards that specifically names natural gas-fired turbines as an eligible technology and does not contain the word emissions. There's a general reference to air quality in a list of site improvements. That's it. No emissions profile, no obligation to file an air permit application with the county, no capacity ceiling, and no separate setback for an exhaust stack, so generation sits inside the same 300-foot setback you use for buildings. The county does not have to invent a fix here. Solutions already exist. You've heard many of them. The Kentucky Resource Council model requires the application to describe the proposed power source, including its emissions profile, its noise, and copies of applications for any required state or federal permits. That puts the permit material into the land use record while still making the zoning decision instead of 2 years later when it's somebody else's problem. The same model has the siting rule, and any emission point or exhaust stack, primary or backup power, at least 1,000 foot from an adjacent property boundary and 2,000 feet from a sensitive use or the boundary of a residential, commercial, or agricultural district. The standard does not presume the outcome of any application. It just recognizes that the setback measured to a building isn't a suitable setback measured to a smokestack. And it lets the public see the power source before the zoning is locked in rather than after. So these questions still remain. First, does the sound standard govern only backup emergency equipment or all power generation equipment for the campus? Second, no standards exist in this document to govern power generation facilities consisting of natural gas-fired turbines or reciprocating engines, as referenced in the document definitions. Until those questions are answered in writing, this document should not be approved. What I'd ask you to do is option 3, as you've heard, continue this hearing, hold work sessions, settle contradictions on the record, require the necessary air permit applications in the zoning file, and put in the stack setbacks. Thank you for your service and for the time to speak.
Good evening, and thank you for staying so late. I know this is getting on, but we'll be finished pretty soon. My name is John Halsey. My wife and I moved back from New York to my home state in 1990, where we began a search for property. Leavenworth County was always number one on our list, and after 2 years we found a beautiful piece of undeveloped woodland just outside of Tonganoxie, where we built our custom home and began turning the woodland into a world-class environment for wildlife. And we continue that work to this day, 35 years later. So we have a lot invested in our county and in our home, and this project here concerns us greatly. So after reading the documents here, I have a simple question. And the question that kept bothering me as I went through these documents was, why write a definition for privately controlled utility-grade generation and then never say how it gets classified, how big it can be, and who reviews it, more importantly? When most of us hear about a data center, we think about a building full of supercomputers and air conditioning, but your own definition asks us to pick something else also, and it names natural gas-fired turbines and reciprocating engines, and it says they can sit on the same parcel, on adjacent parcels, or in what it calls a coordinated development area. That's in the language. That deserves its own consideration, not a line item buried in the district. I don't have to speculate what happens if we don't get this right, because other towns have already been through it. And I'll cite just 2 quick examples. Sterling, Virginia. There's a data center there called Vantage VA2. It runs 8 natural gas turbines for full-time power, and it holds a permit for 51 more diesel backup generators right next to a residential neighborhood. An independent analysis using EPA's own health model put the permitted emissions at a cost of $53 to $99 million a year in health damages. That's a sobering thought. And 3.5 to 6.5 additional premature deaths a year. These things are killers. Leavenworth County is not Sterling, and I'm not predicting no shocking numbers here. My point is narrower than that. That facility is fully permitted. It is legal. Everything about it is legal, which tells you and me and everyone else that a permit isn't the same thing as a rule and regulations about where the generation goes, how big it gets, who it could hurt, and possibly who it could kill. We need strict regulations on this stuff. And if you think I'm exaggerating about the morality of the people that own these plants and build them, go to South Haven, Mississippi. That plant down there is built by a company called XAI, and they ran 27 methane gas turbines without bothering to get an air permit at all. They powered a data center with that about a half a mile from houses and roughly a mile from an elementary school. That should scare anybody. The NAACP, along with Earth Justice and the Southern Environmental Law Institute, sued them under the Clean Air Act. I'm not sure how that has settled out yet, but that's in progress. But we're not South Haven either. The lesson here is about timing. Decide what review a generation system gets before you adopt the language, not after somebody's turbines are already spinning, because now you got a big problem. For scale, I will label this very carefully. The developer's own public estimate for the project being discussed, as you've heard, is about 1.2 billion watts. Thank you. Wolf Creek produces 1.2 billion watts of energy, and I've been down next to that plant. It is enormous. You all have photographs of a gas turbine plant that can generate 1.2 billion watts with you. Try to find a pickup truck in there for scale. That thing is a monster. So no configuration has been submitted for this particular plant to anybody, which is exactly why a separate hearing makes sense rather than less sense. Here's some context for this. I'll skip that because I'm running out of time. So my ask is option 3, and specifically that the generation provisions get pulled out and given their own hearing separate from the rest of this district. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Hello, my name is Tammy Patton. I am at 65 South Bittersweet Lane in Lansing, Kansas. Chairman Spink and members of the commission, I want to be exact about what I'm asking for. I'm not asking you to prohibit anything. I'm asking you to adopt the same protections that Cass County, Missouri adopted last year for the same industry, in the same metropolitan market, on the same kind of farmland. There are 3. And each one serves health, safety, or public process. Each comes from an adopted ordinance or a published model. None of them requires this commission to invent a standard. The first is a sound standard based on existing conditions. Archbald, Pennsylvania requires that project sound not exceed measured pre-construction ambient sound by more than 5 decibels at any residential lot line or at any other residential use within 2,500 feet. Ambient sound simply means the background noise that is there today. Archbald requires a continuous long-term applicant-paid survey conducted under the American National Standards Institute standard, and it treats project sound 5 decibels above that measured level as a zoning violation. I want to point something out. The ordinance already requires ambient sound monitoring as one of the site studies. It measures the number and then never uses it. Archbald's rule costs the county nothing new. It just puts the measurement to work. It starts from a fact instead of an assumption, and it gives you a violation standard instead of a promise of mitigation. The second is about exhaust. The Kentucky Resources Council model requires that any emission point or exhaust stack from the data center energy system, whether for primary or backup power, be at least 1,000 feet from adjacent property boundary and 2,000 from any sensitive use or from the boundary of any residential, commercial, or agricultural district. This draft defines generation and supplies no stack setback at all. A building setback is not a stack setback. And notice that the Kentucky rule applies to primary and backup power alike, which resolves the ambiguity other speakers have raised. The third protects the public's role over time. Cass County requires a special use permit for a data center or a battery storage facility, a new permit for any expansion, including any increase in site area or the area for accessory equipment, and a new permit for any change in resource. That last phrase matters. If a project grows or changes how it makes its power, the people affected get a new public hearing and a fresh record. Without it, one approval covers 20 years of build-out, and no one ever comes back. Staff's memo says there are currently no active applications for data center development. There is time to compare peer language and make deliberate choices in public. I'm asking for protections that already exist elsewhere, not for a promise that the missing details will be settled later in a development agreement the public will never see. Taken together, these three address operations, location and future change. The first measures actual sound at actual homes. The second applies a clear distance standard to exhaust from both primary and backup power. The third makes sure expansion or a change in power source cannot happen without another public decision. They are also a practical agenda for a work session. Commissioners can read the adopted language, set it beside this draft, and say which protection should apply here and why. That is more accountable than leaving material standards to a future contract. My concrete ask is option 3. Continue this hearing, hold a work session, and return with the Archibald Ambient 5+5 standard, the 1,000-foot and 2,000-foot exhaust stack setback, and the Cass County requirement of a new permit and a new public hearing for any expansion or change in power source. Thank you.
Commissioners, good evening. John Wicke, 20984 Hemp Hill Road. When it comes to data centers, people around the country, and certainly right here in this county, are angry. They are scared. Some of them show up every Wednesday morning in this very room in tears. They have seen and learned from others that came before us. They have noticed where the mistakes have been made, where NDAs were signed, and where projects or regulations were rammed down their throat with complete disregard for their wishes. Some of those people now live with fouled water, higher utility bills, increased asthma rates, or noise inside and outside of their homes that never stops. But the people of Leavenworth County are smart. Many of them are sitting in this room right now, and I hope you look out in the hallway and see the overflow. They realize, understand, and appreciate that you have immense power to write the rules in such a way that protects them, protects our communities, and our way of life. The public expects to see a planning commission and a BOCC who recognize that a hyperscale data center anywhere in this country the county would be the most transformative project we've ever seen. We expect you to recognize that there are immense consequences and considerations extending far beyond pilot payments or hypothetical tax relief. The speakers before you tonight reference dozens of line items that represent unfinished work. Of course, the BOCC allowed the 90-day moratorium on data centers to expire. The upfront rationale 90 days ago was to allow the county time to prepare the very regulations we're discussing this evening. And here we are, right on schedule. But here's the thing. I know there are commissioners on this panel that are fully supportive of the data center. I know that likewise there are some that are vehemently against it. But regardless of who's who and your respective position on the matter, of whether or not a hypothetical hyperscale data center should be in Tonganoxie or Easton is appropriate, there isn't a single one of you who can look the public in the eye and say, these rules are complete, our work is finished. You cannot do it. Members of the community spoke about the gaps for over an hour tonight, and your job is to leave no stone unturned in ensuring that we are safe. The concern of the board should not be whether the regulations are too strict or unpalatable for an unknown end user with $1 trillion market capitalization on the NASDAQ stock exchange. Ultimately, if you get this wrong, it governs in 5 years and it governs in 20. Fixing something later means starting over with a whole new amendment, and by then, there's an applicant, and an applicant has a lawyer, and the lawyer's job is to tell you what your ordinance already allows. If you're wrong, you hand this mistake to your grandchildren. So as I mentioned before, Leavenworth County residents are smart people. They know our state and county is and will be inundated by data center proposals driven by the massive tax handout that is SB 98. Another reason they're smart, they see the billionaires behind these projects and know that $75 or $150 or whatever it is in annual tax relief is not a fair trade for destroying thousands of picturesque acres of farmland, their general way of life, and their health. They are witnessing states that went before us pull back on their tax incentives. They are watching communities sue over unmitigated noise and pollution, only to be told, sorry, you're SOL due to national security reasons. That was the result in Memphis with XAI. They've seen previous projects calculated at 300 or 400 megawatts at the beginning turn into 1.2 or more gigawatts. And interestingly, locally, it's likely that Project Bluestem would not give our residents only a data center with likely 12 buildings of over 1 million square foot apiece on 1,100 acres, but it would have a utility-scale gas turbine plant, a battery energy storage facility, and a 20-acre substation, all together. So we call this a technology district. It's really just heavy, nasty industrial. The legacy of this planning commission, the BOCC, and ultimately all of the members behind it, including you, should be noted by diligence, respect, and rejection of speed to market that has been so prevalent across the country. Many see a data center project as an existential threat to our county. It is and will be if you don't take your time and get this 100% right. Push it out, choose option 3, and do additional work. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Victoria Thomas at 20162 235th Street, Tonganoxie, Kansas. I've been a resident for just over 3 years. As a resident with a desire to grow a family and a business in this county, I am against zoning that allows data centers or battery energy storage facilities to move into our community without very restrictive zoning language implemented. There have been so many eloquent speakers tonight. I want to agree with the second speaker, Robin Perkins, Denise McCullen, and the prior speaker, John Wicke, in regards to the language changes they would like to see. I am very concerned about the impact on the citizens, wildlife, and livestock. I implore you to vote option 3 and allow for more time and consideration. Thank you.
Mark Elston, 21589 Kansas Avenue, Tonganoxie. My property butts up against where the proposed data center and power plant is. I'm here for option 3 for the humanistic side. For us people that live right there, we need time to make decisions, just as you need time to make decisions. Because we have life-changing decisions that rely on you. And we went through County Road 1 rezoning to refer to Speaker 2, and I appreciate all the research and everything that people did, so not regurgitate Speaker number 2 on the rezoning. We went through that in County Road 1. All of us people that own property there, all of our property was rezoned with none of our agreements was done. There was not a tremendous amount of research done on that, and I had to pay money to rezone my own property so I could live there. I ask that you extend this option 3 for the humanistic side of us folks that have to make lifetime decisions in the next 6 months. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andrea Jones, 5801 Southwest Candle Tree Drive. I'm from Topeka. Recently moved from Easton to Topeka for work. To be closer to my work. I'm an industrial hygienist by trade, not paid to be here. I was asked to be here by a friend. I'm already researching another data center that's in the rural areas of Shawnee County. So I'm here with some of that information that's not being talked about tonight. The above ground, I get it's been talked about quite a bit here, and I appreciate that. I'm talking about what's going to be generational below ground, and that's the water. I tried looking up this particular data center, and I'm not getting a lot of good information from them. I don't have an open house to speak of to get information from them. But what I can tell you from the other data center that I did go to, which was Beale, the one from Shawnee County, which also has a few more open in the area around us, and their closed loop system, which is what I think they're about to propose for you all, which sounds great. It's not. It is not what it is cracked up to be. So please be very careful with that verbiage. The closed loop system is a mix of glycol and chemicals, along with what they call two pool of water. So pools of water. So they don't know, they can't define it if it's an Olympic pools of water or I don't know what kind of pools of water, but they bring it in from off-site. They also tout that it is doesn't have any heavy metals. They test it before, whatever claims that they would like to make. Anyway, they have their own people test the water. They have their own third-party company come in and do the testing. Therefore, there is no accountability. There is also going to be nobody telling us what those testing results are. So please be very careful with these companies putting that wool over your eyes when they're telling you that they're going to do all of this testing when they're not going to give you the results of what that testing is. The other item is every 2 to 5 years, this water has to be flushed from those 10 different cells from these hyperscale centers that they're about to build in your backyard here, that they're trying to build in Shawnee County. DeSoto's getting 2 of them. Okay, there's 10 different cells. That means there's 10 different bodies of water that are going to be circulating through these, okay? They have to flush those every 2 to 5 years. As it looks right now with our Shawnee partners or Shawnee commissioners, we don't know where that water is going to get dumped. It is unclear to us out there. There's no wastewater catchment. There are no ideas of taking it to the city. The city doesn't want it. Is everybody painting that picture really clear right now? It's going to get dumped. According to the Beale partners, they say out in Arizona, they can use it to put it over the solar panels and clean the solar panels out there. Or the very parched areas of their grounds, they dump it back over that. That was quotes from Beale. So understand what these, I just let them talk to me. They didn't know who I was. So I just allowed them to talk. So that was data they just gave me. And then I was allowed to tell our partners out there. So this is a very scary thing. So please allow these people to just talk to you without telling them who you are, if you let them. So please, also, real quick, I have 41 seconds. I did not hear about a stormwater pollution prevention program. That's runoff from the facility. I did not hear anything that if any of the pipes break all of a sudden, what happens to that water? Where does that go? Those catchment ponds that I saw on the cute little drawing is not going to contain it. It's still going to go down into the ground. So great, I'm glad you guys are talking about what's up top. I am not seeing about what's going down from the bottom. Thank you.
It's like you guys could use a cigarette up here. Hello, my name is Tyler Carpenter. I have a bee, butterfly, and bird preserve named after my grandmother Beulah on Fairmont Road in Leavenworth County, Kansas. I'm here today to speak for the bees. In 2023, a study published in Science Advances by Drs. Molina, Montenegro, and team found that exposure to electromagnetic fields, or EMF, radiation emitted by high voltage transmission power lines, towers, like the ones used in this hyperscale data center project, induced significant physiological stress in honeybees and negatively impacted their pollination behavior. EMF-exposed honeybees showed changes in expression of genes related to navigation, foraging, learning, and antioxidant activity, indicating substantial physiological stress. Honeybees exposed to higher levels of EMF visited fewer flowers, which in turn reduced seed production and lowered local plant diversity and abundance. These effects were observed when the electric power transmission towers were actively emitting EMF. A 2023 review of research on EMF and insects by Dr. Thill and his team documented decreased reproductive capacity, altered behavior, oxidative stress, DNA damage, and impaired development. And a review of over 1,200 studies examining EMF impacts to wildlife by Dr. Levitt and his team in 2021 details how many bees may be reacting negatively to EMF through multisensory mechanisms. Too numerous sources of antipathetic multi-frequency EMF interference. Numerous experts caution that EMF limits are outdated and human-centric, ignoring the growing research the impacts of EMF exposure on wildlife health, especially for pollinators. Egg laying in bees has decreased, leading to colony collapse in these studies. Let me zoom out and explain how bees communicate. It's through vibration of their flight muscles. It's how they heat their bodies also. It's how they speak. They vibrate at between 150 hertz and 250 hertz to tell each other what to do. The entire hive works as one entity this way. There are some of the most orderly creatures on Earth, and the low tonal noise produced by these data centers ruins their ability to talk to each other. Imagine trying to communicate with your friends, family, and colleagues with a noise that can overpower your yelling. That's why bees simply stop communicating and colonies grind down slower and slower until they eventually collapse. I don't raise bees. Honeybees are actually non-native and were brought over by European colonizers. They spread disease to flowers and push out native bees that were there. I'm making home for bumblebees and leafcutter bees and other non-aggressive bees that pollinate the flowers and crops better than those Eurotrash bees ever did. They don't produce honey. They're not thought of as commodities, so they're cast aside. After a few years of work planting their food source flowers and limiting herbicide usage, the native bees have pushed out all of the honeybees. Amazing when you give nature a little boost, and most importantly, a reprieve from human pollution, it will thrive again. So I speak about the bees and the butterflies and the birds because that's my niche. In truth, I care most about the humans left near this data center. My grandfather spent his last 2 years in the Tonganoxie Nursing Center, only a couple miles north of the site. It's not right to expose any creature to the unending oppressive sounds and EMF radiation that this data center will bring. I'm asking you today to choose option 3. There is no rush. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda Steele. I live in Reno County. I'm not sure, can I hand out something that I sent? I emailed it to the copies for everybody. Oh, you already have it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I come from a background of cellular work and science. And one thing is cancer research. So I'm well aware of non-ionizing cancer radiation treatments. And some of these kill off cells. They kill off fast-dividing cells, just like your chemos. So if I took it, I'd lose my hair and stomach lining. But when children are exposed to this, they are fast-dividing cells, pregnant women and children. You 10 men are very, very important right now because we need to put limits on this before we can't just let a gorilla come in here and get loose. Now, I'm asking for 5 things. I'm asking that you put limits to stop the EMFs leaving the whole campus, both the MU to drop out the magnet frequencies and the Faraday cage. Now, also for any transmission lines or any electrical, I'd like you to put in safety measures to redesign them so the EMFs do not leave the center line and do that countywide. The third one on there is for tonal noise, and that's your vibration, like you feel in the ground when a train's going by. So they got all these fans, and they're all moving. And we use these in the lab as well to keep our equipment very still. So they layer in ways to absorb the vibration. And I have that in the list. So I really want you to consider adding that, to forcing them to put that in the design so that that vibration does not leave the campus. Now, the fourth one I was going to ask was that you filter out the specific cancer treatment frequencies. They're very specific. The FDA gives these. They can give, they give Pfizer, and Pfizer can make billions of dollars off of frequency, right? These are known. And so I was going to request that you put request filters on all the cell towers in the county. Guess what? That is illegal. Ladies and gentlemen, since 1996, every cell tower can put out any frequency onto a community, and there is no regulation. None. You have no power to do anything about that. None. There's also currently, I do not believe, the last thing I wanted to ask you to do is put some kind of measurement and enforcement on these frequencies, and there is not that. You can have a 30-mile-an-hour speed zone, but without your officers to regulate it and make sure it's there, it doesn't do any good. So I'm also I don't think that is your job, but you might recommend that we learn. Also in 1996, the EPA nationwide was collecting data on EMS. So with the power of the United States, they were collecting in entire communities, and they were monitoring cancer and health considerations, and that funding went away, and they stopped that in 1996, the same year that they gave carte blanche, so the immunity to the cell towers, 1996. So the control of EMS is at this level. You 10 men can make the decision on what you allow our children in this community, our elderly, our pacemakers, to experience in these frequencies. If you go to PubMed, there are, I think it's over 18,000 scientific publications on EMS. And if you look at cancer therapy, you get like 6,500. So this is not like a few. And letting the gorillas loose to just do what they want, this is the only opportunity we're going to have to put the leash on and to make sure that they make our community safe. So, and if I do have the background for the cellular level, I've put in there things about designing the high voltage. I don't actually do that, right? So I thought if you do need any help on learning more about EMFs or this cancer therapies and things, I'd be happy to meet with any of you or talk about it. And thank you so much.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Zach Pastora. I live at 12297 246th Street in Lawrence, Kansas. Still Leavenworth County resident, born and raised here in Leavenworth County. I went to Tonganoxie schools and appear before you as the state director for the Kansas chapter of Sierra Club. We're an environmental organization, been around for 51 years. We have over 4,000 members across the state of Kansas. We've been paying close attention to data centers because, frankly, they've been a game changer for progress on our environmental concerns in terms of air quality, pollution, water use, and generally for communities that have been facing these things, quality of life. That goes beyond just their day-to-day lives, but enjoyment of nature. And so as Sierra Club, our mission is to enjoy, explore, and protect the great outdoors. And in that spirit, we try to look at these policies and offer recommendations for how local communities can deal with these data centers. And as a statewide organization, we were the only group that opposed the big tax handout for data centers that come in Kansas. I mean, these are some of the richest companies in America, let alone the world, and we didn't think we should be handing out big tax incentives through sales tax exemption to come into our counties where there's no blueprint for regulation. So that's my next comment is thank you to all of you for your hard work and to staff for considering some regulations here and a tough decision and what's right for our county and our communities and the people and the environment, all the interests there. A lot of hard work goes into us. And also say from a macro level standpoint, across the country, we have chapters, the state chapters across the country. We got a new report coming out that's called Artificial Integrity, talking about data centers who haven't been living up to their promises and commitments across the country in terms of what they were going to do to help out, both economically, environmentally, and socially. So we're calling them out on that. And when we said we were against the tax giveaway at the State House, we said we're not anti-data center, but we're definitely against dirty data centers, and we're definitely against them coming into community and act like because they got all the money they can do whatever they want. So that's where these regulations are really important. Let me talk about a few specifics for you to consider, but overall, before I forget, we'd recommend option 3, or we'd say parse it out, split it, go ahead and approve the small-scale data centers that are 5 megawatts or less. We have a number of those in Kansas already. They don't cause the same environmental and community disturbance that we see from these hyperscale large data centers, the medium or the large scale, as it's providing these regulations. I'll say, while I appreciate all the hard work, I think there's still some work to be done on the regulations. I did notice that the data center regulations seem to be a little shorter than the battery energy storage regulations in terms of number of pages. And we, as an organization, have seen the power of battery energy storage systems as a standalone electrical infrastructure. I mean, we need more energy than less. We need to capture the cheap energy, especially the energy that isn't polluting our environment, to capture that and use it when we need it in peak demand to lower the cost of energy. So I know you're going to consider those regulations. We'd absolutely support that. And as a business practice, we've seen good actors with those types of projects in neighboring county like Wyandotte County. We're excited for the applications to come before you. But back to the data center regulations, I don't think the environmental regulations are strong enough. Big surprise. It called for environmental assessment. There's no accountability there. There's no community oversight group that we've seen in other communities across the country recommend. There's no continual monitoring that I can see. There's no, while we say we should use less water, they're not required to publicize how much water they actually use. And that could be a problem. So we would say that with noise and air quality, there should be a cumulative assessment, both the generation, not per individual unit, but as a whole, besides just the data center, how these things are going to be generated. And of course, we're not comfortable with only 25% of the energy coming from pollution-free renewable energy resources. It should be all of it. Thank you.
First of all, thank you all for hanging out long enough to hear me speak. If I'm not last, I'm close to it. My name is Cecilia Pruitt. I live at 21800 Parallel Road, Tonganoxie. I have over 40 years experience as a bachelor-prepared registered nurse. The majority of that experience has been working with children. Children mean everything to me. I came here tonight and I thought I could speak to you about what this hyperscale data center means for children, but I get only 5 minutes, so I've chosen 2 topics to talk to you about. First of all, that would be, I want to address asthma. I want to refer to the Environmental Health Project, February 7th of 2026, entitled Data Centers Represent Health Risks for Their Neighbors. These risks are particularly high from hyperscale data centers powered by fossil fuels. These data centers emit significant pollutants, including nitrogen oxides, volatile organic compounds, and fine particulate matter. Although electricity offers a cleaner alternative, according to Jarrett Burden, a renewable energy lawyer with a practice encompassing corporate transactions, real estate, and land use law, the grid can no longer keep up with these data centers. As for us here in Leavenworth County, we don't have a date of when Evergy would be prepared to furnish all of the electricity necessary, so we're going to be looking at fossil fuels until that time, and then we still look at fossil fuels as a backup. Per T.H. Chan School of Public Health, this article was April the 8th of 2026, they said fine particulate matter is estimated to drive 90% of health impacts from air pollution. They analyzed the effects of this fine particulate matter from data centers in London County, Virginia, and their conclusion, 53 to 99 million in annual health damages from a single facility. One, people, one. An estimated of 3.4 to 6.5 additional premature deaths a year. I'm going to refer to a quote by Michael Cork, who holds a PhD in biostatistics and postdoctoral research. And I quote, "The first thing I'd say is we can't solve a problem we haven't measured. Right now, permitting decisions for data centers are being made without any clear accounting of their public health." In addition to asthma, the next thing I'll bring up is the evidence that air pollution is associated with ASD. That's autism spectrum disorder. If you don't have any children in your family that suffer from autism, look to your neighbors, because right now it's 1 in 33. This is a cohort study that was done in Ontario, Kansas. The study used data from over 2 million births from April the 1st of 2002 to December the 31st of 2022. Findings: higher exposure to fine particulate matter, exposure to sulfate and ammonium compounds in the second and third trimester were statistically associated with an increase in the risk of autism disorder. This information came from the Journal of the American Medical Association, October 23 of 2025. So the information I'm giving you is very recent and very relevant. So what I'm asking you, all these people have given you good ideas on how to write regulations, what to do and everything, but I'm asking each one of you, please think of the children in Leavenworth County. I'm 71 years old. If this data center goes in, I have my house back in the woods and I'm about 3 miles from it, I'm going to be fine. I don't care about me. I care about children. And all of you need to care about them too, because they depend on us and they have no voice in this matter. Thank you each.
Hi there. My name is Spencer Davidson. I live at 11999 222nd Street, which is County Road 1. I live on a 140-acre farm along County Road 1, about 5 miles south of Tailgate Ranch, where the current data center is being considered. This farm has been in my family ever since my great-great-grandfather purchased it in 1896. I'm the 5th generation of the Davidson family to own and work the land, and my 2 children are the 6th. I can't compete with all the things so many people have said tonight, but I want to express my strong agreement with all the points made and that you should select the third option. I'm not smart enough to keep up with zoning terminology and rules, and I'm incredibly thankful to live in a community full of so many intelligent and passionate people who clearly are. I won't take too much more of your time tonight. I know it's very late. I simply want to remind you all of the enormity of the issue. Your decisions in the coming weeks and months will shape the fate of an entire county. What is decided by this commission will not just be felt by us, but also by our children and our grandchildren, by my children. I know this isn't an easy job, and we thank you for your time and dedication to Leavenworth County. I simply ask that as you make your decisions in the coming weeks, remember, future generations are counting on you, and we only have one chance to get this right. History is watching.
My name is Teresa Lynch Mashburn. I live at 19010 High Prairie Road, Leavenworth, Kansas. I came this morning, I spoke to the commission. Now, I know we get to vote on our commissioners. I know that y'all are nominated by the commissioners, but I hope that you choose option 3. I've listened to this and I've gathered more information tonight about the data centers, what it can do. And I said this morning, I know it's coming, I know we can't change it, but we can do it right. And you guys have the chance. Please, don't rush us. You know, I'm not looking at it making money for me. I feel like some people are being paid for it, and I don't like it. Or they bought the PR and they're just willing to go. You can bully people, but your constituents, which they are, even though you were nominated by a commissioner, are standing here watching you and hoping you make the right decisions. And everything I heard tonight makes so much sense. Don't rush it. Think of the children in the future. And I can't say that for my children because I don't have children. Something I wanted. I do have grandchildren, step-grandchildren in other states. I know y'all probably have children or grandchildren, and think of them. You know, it shouldn't be rushed. Elon Musk released his plans for a 100 million foot data center in Texas. It looks like 2 massive runways. We do not need stuff like that in Kansas City or in Leavenworth County. I know that's a hypercenter, but put restrictions so we don't have to try to come back and visit it. Do it right. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I find myself on this side of the podium. Facebook.
Vanessa.
Yeah,
What is your
Vanessa
name?
Reed,
Name and address.
Leavenworth County Commission, here representing myself only as an individual. 2942 Goddard Circle, Leavenworth, Kansas, 66048. Okay, so I don't know if you guys are okay with one individual speaking for all of you, but that's what happened on social media. And I also have a problem with someone making a statement, I am pro this, I am anti this, when you guys potentially might have an application coming before you. I think that sets the county up for a lawsuit. One of the things I ran on when I ran to be county commissioner was to stop lawsuits that happen for absolutely no reason that's completely preventable to help save taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Can I respond?
Good afternoon. I hope I'm very short here. Me too. My backside is now sore. I don't know whether this is the best use of the land or not. That's up to you to determine. But I ask you to... Who are you? I'm sorry. First thing I did was get up here and made a mistake. I've always been told not to do that. I'm Louis Mashburn, and I live on 19010 High Prairie Road, right across the street, by the way, from this proposed battery center. We saw the battery people in their campaign comments the other day, talked to them. Very nice people, but they said they're not connected in any way with the data center. I called them on that because they need the data center needs them, And by the way, there's additional property outside where the data center wants to go in Leavenworth County, so go figure. But I cannot sit here and have a sitting county commissioner say that she's not for something and go look it up, watch the video this morning that she said she was. That is not the way we do business in the United States of America.
I think I might be the last person. Ronald Grossman, 1421 Columbia. Neither here or there. I just want to ask you, I was at a county commission meeting this morning, and one of our commissioners specifically stated that she was demanding that several of you recuse yourself from anything having to do with data centers because of Facebook comments you may or may not have made. You have the right to freedom of speech. I ask you not to give in to the bullying tactics of a sitting commissioner just because she thinks she has the right to order you to recuse yourself. Please do not recuse yourself under any circumstances and vote your conscience. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Close it.
Thank you, Jim. Are there any more additional information to be presented? I will now close the public comment portion of this meeting. Before we get to questions, we're going to take a 15-minute break. Yes, please. 5 minutes. Crowd's less, easier to get through now. 9 o'clock, 7 minutes. 9 o'clock, we'll resume questions.
I just need to stand up. Lucy's here, must be fine.
Robert wasn't always
Okay, so. I told the news reporter my name was Robert Owens.
So did I.
All of us are like, what's your name? Robert Owens? What's your name? Robert Owens?
Let's get started again. John, you ready for questions or do you want to comment?
Bring them on, I'm ready.
You guys, let's do it one at a time, or do you want to just fire away?
Let's just start at one side and go. Left side of the dais.
Marcus,
Marcus.
before you fall asleep.
Thank you, Commissioner. Stick for breakfast.
Okay.
Waiting.
Let there be known, there's plenty of us with gray hair in the room, okay? All right.
And boobs.
Okay, hey, I'm going to address one, and we'll go from there, okay? All right? All right, so there was discussions tonight, John, referenced Section U, lacking penalties, assessment of penalties, enforcement of penalties. Can we address that?
Well, as we talked about in the work session, can you hear that? Yeah. As we talked about in the work session, a universal penalty for every element, every size data center, in my mind, doesn't work, which is why the penalty clause is what it is. It should be included in the development agreement. It should be molded to each one of the sites. If you got a 5,000 square foot data center, it is not the same thing as a 1,000,000 square foot data center. The penalties you would apply to the first are not going to be applicable to the second.
So
that is absolutely true.
Right. Okay, so you're saying that we address it as it comes with penalties, or are you saying that we could look at the smaller with penalties and larger with penalties?
You can adjust penalties and put any section you want in there. Again, one universal penalty for every type of center that you may run into, I don't think is prudent. Now, some things, like sound, that's going to be universal. I think you could address that. But having one penalty for this and excluding a penalty for some other element probably is not a prudent action, which is why the penalty clauses are labeled like they are. So, again, they need to be tailored for the site and the construction.
Okay. All right. Article 19, as it was stated and talked about in the paper, in the Article 19 said we're missing data, missing everything in Article 19.
Article 19 is a table of uses. Okay, so it labels what use goes where. The uses for both of these are clearly defined in the front part of the requirement in the ordinance. They're defined what uses, where they can be, conditional or otherwise. And that is simply amending the table of uses to reflect what is in the policy. So there's no additional information other than This use is allowable in this district, which is clearly stated on the front side of the policy.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I've addressed 2 issues. I'll pass it off to... Yep. And then we'll come back around if we don't get all the rest of them I got. I got like a whole page of them.
So, number one, appreciate all the hard work that you've done on this, so thank you. So the noise reduction at night, these facilities operate 24 hours. The DBA, I know a lot of people brought up tonal noise, DBC, otherwise known, correct? One thing, I know that was brought up a lot, DBC, tonal noise, same thing, just for the crowd out there, that is in there, and I know a lot of people brought that up, but there is a tonal noise clause in the noise ordinance. And then I will say one thing, the emissions, you brought up emissions, I heard that a lot too. Can you please talk to the regulations and for emissions and how it's governed by the state?
Well, clean air and clean water, whether you reference it in your ordinance or your policy, doesn't make it more or less required on each and every site that you have. So if you go to the data center facts on KDHE's website, you're going to find just what the elements are that you're going to have to deal with, from blowdown to pre-treatment to stormwater facilities, air quality, wastewater permits, underground and above ground, all of these things that may be applicable, and this is readily available on KDHE's site. Whether I include that in a regulation or not, it doesn't lessen their authority to enforce it. So during the design of this, any particular project, they're going to have to apply for MPDES permits. They're going to have to apply at the state and federal level, depending on what they're going to have emissions-wise from backup or even power generation. Clean air and clean water is applicable across the board. Whether you include it or not in your policy is irrelevant. It is still applicable on each site. And you can't change those parameters. You can be more restrictive, I suppose, if you chose to go that direction. But those baselines of clean air, clean water are always present.
Understood. Thank you. And then the last comment would be about the generators. There's a tier system, correct? And we're recommending a certain tier level for...
That's for backup generation, and some of the comments were around site generation. Now, a lot of these centers, generation is a component of their contracts with these utility companies. Eventually, utility companies end up in possession, as I understand this, from other areas of the country, end up in possession of those stations, which makes them, private utilities, and they are governed under the other sections of the zoning ordinance. As far as emissions from that particular, they are still bound by clean water, clean air.
Understood. And then the last...
Are you going with the whole book?
I was just going through my list.
Oh,
sorry. The last thing, going back to the noise, so doing my due diligence, as you know, tonal noise is not a regulated, very widely regulated criteria. There's maybe a handful of jurisdictions in the United States that actually have a DBC or tonal noise requirement, so I appreciate having that item in there. I'm done.
that's good.
Thanks.
Robert.
Battery storage decommission, John. What on the guidelines when these battery storage facilities?
Why is there a difference in the two? Is that the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, typically in decommissioning and that bonding element, that normally happens on 2 occasions. One, it's an SUP-CUP process. So you have a use that's not typically borne by the underlying zoning district, hence the reason for the SUP. You're going to get that, which you have in the BESS regulations, because it's only SUP required. There is no by right use there. There is the remediation element to it. The other zoning district that we're proposing, the Industrial Technology District, some of that is by right. So if you have a by right use, there really, in my opinion, there's not a reason for remediation. because you're not remediating property back to something that wasn't allowed in the base zoning district to begin with. The second part of that, you do have remediation when you're dealing with brownfields. A lot of times, data centers will locate in areas like the ammunition dump in DeSoto could be a prime example of this. They'll locate in those types of areas, and remediation has to happen prior to construction. At a federal level, that's federally permitted. It has to be cleaned up before anything can be constructed on the site. Those are the two occasions that come to mind.
And the other one was the EMFs, and you and I talked about this. The lines going in, they're going to be about 300 foot, the main. Am I in general, am I right on
There's a 300-foot setback, but many times they're going to go greater. Now, I'm certainly not saying that EMFs aren't without risk. I certainly defer to her knowledge on that, but I do know that Kansas, and for that matter on a national level, there is no requirement for shielding in transmission lines that I'm aware of. Okay? If there is, somebody is going to have to show it to me because it's not there that I know of. Now, 300 feet is typically what they use in overhead transmission lines. That's why you don't see it included in these particular criteria. EMFs in your home average between 0.6 to 4. Okay, the proposed regulations are setting a limit at 1, if I remember correctly. You have more exposure than that in everyday homes. You know, from anything from hair dryers to microwave ovens to general appliances. So that's why you don't see it in these regulations. I'm not saying it's not viable. I'm just saying in my research, that's what we found.
Okay. Do you think we need to add something like that into our deal, or do you think we're covered adequately?
Well, I think,
does this fall under our state guidelines?
Well, no. Again, there is no state
guidelines.
No, there is not. So, again, I think an important thing is siting, which is the requirement for the development plan. I don't disagree that you bring substations and stacks to the inside of a campus if at all possible. Again, critical elements of siting, which is why you have a development plan process, a preliminary and a final, and you lock that in with development agreements to make sure that there is no wiggle room once the deal gets done.
Thanks, John.
Mm-hmm.
John, you bring up development plans, but isn't the basis of a development plan these rules that we're setting? I mean, isn't that the start of those?
That is the start of those.
I mean, I just don't think it's complete enough. I think there's a lot of unknowns. I think there needs to be more verbiage for protection. And just listening to the comments that everyone said, excellent points. And I just think there's so much that we don't know. What I would like to see is a work session with the BOCC together with us so that we can go over and get answers to all of these things and look at this document, because as it sits right now, I don't think it's ready to be voted on.
Me?
Yeah, that's all you.
Oh, did I say that? My only couple of comments. Number one, I think you did an admirable job putting this whole thing together. I know you used Cass County's example and others throughout the nation as you and I have talked. My question is just a question as we move forward and need to look at is the lower dB at night. These centers work the same during the day as they do at night. And so is it realistic to say we have a lower, another county might say that, but are they enforcing it? Is there a means of reducing the noise at night versus the day?
You can, and there is a requirement for monitoring in the policy. If you take a look at the overall dB, which is you could say cumulative, but if it's at the property line, that includes the entire site. It doesn't exclude anything on the site. It includes everything to the property line. There's 65, which was a result of multiple public input, and it reduces it to 55 if there's any tonal element at all. If it's detected, then it's 55 day and night. So it reduces it to their recommended, from what I understood as they were presenting, to their recommended levels, both day and night.
Okay.
So if you're setting at a 55 dBA 24 hours a day, you've got a nighttime designation through the daytime hours as well.
Okay. All right. And the only other thing I would suggest is that we do look at the changes to power generation as updates. And whether that's in the development plan or in the reg, as they move from a reciprocating engine to a turbine engine, as a normal update, there should be a requirement, I think, for them to come back to the Board of County Commissioners at least with an updated development plan. And you should put that in as a requirement.
Well, that is a requirement of the development plan. If you're not in substantial compliance with the preliminary, then you absolutely have to go through the process again, which includes a public hearing.
I got it. We should just kind of note that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
My questions have already been brought up.
John just wanted to make a comment. I know we hammered hard on that decibel sound stuff in our previous session. I appreciate the fact that we're bringing this back up again. I think we do need to note that, we're working in a kind of a gray area there. There aren't a lot of studies that kind of help us, but I think we're trying to strike a median for what is reasonable. And I like to think that that's kind of where you're looking at this as well.
Well, we're requiring a pre- and post-developed condition, so not just an ambient sound noise, but based on land use. What is the probable level that you're going to have, both in tonal and standard dB, in a post-developed condition, and then we follow that up with monitoring, constant monitoring, and 24-hour access to the public in these regulations if they stand as they are. And anytime we can go and measure that particular dB or have it measured by a third party, and if there's impacts to that, we can require additional screening and additional audio reduction elements. That could be sound curtains, it could be a number of different things. Then it modifies the development agreement and is treated as an addendum to that.
Anytime I've talked to somebody about data centers, the matter of water and the change out and the disposal of the previously used water has always come up as a big concern. Do we have something like that?
Well, again, that blowdown water is going to be a product of that MPDES. And if we're having, as I heard earlier, four ponds, that absolutely is going to require pretreatment. You're not going to release that. You have to comply with that to comply with clean water. You have some requirements at the state level and the federal level. So you can't just release that type of water with any toxic element to it on the surface. You can't do it. That's why the MPDES permit is there, and it's a requirement to fill that out, and it's based on design. What do you have to do? You may or may not need pretreatment. That's a product of how the site is engineered. Blowdown water and treatment of the blowdown water before it's released to public sewer, which, by the way, any of these have to be connected to a public sewer and a public water system.
Yeah, the thing that came to my mind almost immediately was at the Call Valley, where the residents' drinking water is only 35 feet below ground. I mean, that's nothing. They can't have ponds out there for this stuff.
Right. As far as settling ponds for blowdown water with scale, and I have yet to see that. I guess anything's possible, but you would have to get through the clean water component. You would have to get through KDHE to allow that to happen, and you're going to end up with pretreatment.
And my second thing that I would...
And again, you can go right to the KDHE website. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go to the KDHE website and research it for yourself.
The other thing I would recommend is a workshop where we get input from these smart people that have talked tonight and give us their concerns specifically so we know that we answer their concerns.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I had many detailed questions that I had, but first I would like to make a comment on everybody that spoke. I thought It was commendable. It was organized. It was thoughtful. It was reasonable. I think it's the definition of civic engagement. Staff has also put in a lot of work, great hours, and I appreciate that. It's kind of the culmination of a little bit of the frustration that I've had and what I feel is a disconnect between citizens, us, and the BOCC. We've had other cases that we've made certain recommendations multiple times that have been somewhat ignored and the other decision has been made. And so I would like the opportunity to have a work session with all entities present, citizens, BOCC, and us, because we all are citizens, no matter what position you're holding. I am not an authority on any of this, and so I take everything that was said to heart, and I want to feel like I'm well informed before I make a decision. I'd like the opportunity to go back and listen to this meeting again. And so I just think a clear, level head and not being rushed into a decision makes complete and utter sense.
Jaden stole a lot of what I was going to say. So I do want to thank the crowd for the civility, but also for bringing organized and arguments and data in a way that was respectful of your time and ours, but very informative. So thank you. A couple of things, some concerns I had around the primary versus auxiliary power. And when we talk about auxiliary being up to full capacity, one thing we don't have, unless it would be in a development plan, that's where I look for your information, would be on like what is the duration of that. I've seen media information about sites essentially running on their auxiliary power for weeks, months. There's no years yet, right? And can they pay the fines to get around it if we don't know? And so can we limit time that they can run on auxiliary power?
We've generally done that, and we've specified that in the policy. That is something that you would define in a penalties clause in a development agreement. And again, the development agreement is filed with the final development plan. It runs with the land, not from person to person. So if they sell the land, they accept the development agreement criteria as well.
And then similarly, going back to power generation, there was a lot of conversation and ballot about the detail for the battery storage section. And initially I went into this thinking that we didn't need that kind of detail for the data centers because of the difference in their overall purpose and content. But in thinking more about the size of some hyperscale proposals and the auxiliary power they would require, that portion of it makes me question whether we need to replicate some of those battery-like protections into that, not because of the data center facility itself, but the auxiliary power generation that might be present with it. It's just a thought from my side. And then the last thing, and we go back to Marcus if he has more, there's some conversations about timing and that there's nothing in front of us today. It's a very accurate statement. I think probably doesn't need answered for me tonight based on what I think we're hearing, but would be curious on a legal perspective if there is value to us having the zoning rules and regulations in place prior to an application, because if an application arrived tomorrow, it would be through an SUP request. Is that accurate? Their
only option would be through an SUP request. That's it.
And so I'm not trying to rush them through, and they still have to go through other approvals. I just want to understand what the timeline looks like. So, thank you.
Various other jurisdictions classify these into light industrial areas. Sometimes there's manufacturing and warehousing elements that they're drawing linear lines to when they are pushed to, review a particular application in the absence of any regulation. That's what has happened over the last year, 2 years, and what we're trying to do is avoid that. I don't dispute that we need as much detail as we can, but you can also write yourself into a corner. As much as detail as you think you're providing, sometimes it's not a protection. But again, a development agreement truly is protection, and it runs with the land and not the person. So, any other questions? All right.
I'm not. You looked at me like, all right, it's Marcus. Okay. All right. So the development plan. that you bring up, right? How do we ensure that a lot of the things that we're addressing, if we hold up and wait and impose on each and every development plan that comes in, and then we start building those things? Is that what you're referring to, John? Is that what you're like? Well, the
No, I'm
development plan
saying-
is going to come in, and then we're going to set this, and then the development plan would.
Well-
Did I misunderstand that?
Well, no, a development plan is a working document until it's finalized and approved. Now, what I did say in the regulations is you will not get a building permit until you have an executed development agreement, which means the development plan process has gone through. It's not something after construction or after permitting. That must be executed prior to permitting being issued. So the development plan process, development agreement process has to be completed and executed before we get construction.
All right, well, thank you. Hey, I just want to echo, tonight has been incredible. This is the reason why I continue to sign up and serve on this panel with all of you. I mean, this has been an incredible. And no, I'm not running for office right now, okay? I want you to get used to that. I'm not running for office right now.
Right now.
Maybe tomorrow. But I just want to echo what several of you said. And John and team, I can't thank you enough. That's all of you, right down to our volume. I can't thank you enough for the work that's gone into this. I can't thank you enough for the time that we've done 2 work sessions to go through this. And as you can see, our good neighbors and our communities all around us can still shoot holes through it. And what about this? What about that? Okay, good points, valid points. And there's nothing to say that we can't come back with the folks that you've mentioned over there, Commissioner Bailey, Commissioner Zinger, and everybody else that's brought it up. I think it's a great idea that we come back, sit down and go, because we heard you.
Thank you.
And that's not just, we heard you, and that's not just because I sit right here and I can't doze off because you're looking right at me, right? But we did hear you, okay? We heard you in the 3 conditions right up front. We heard you addressing the health issues and the safety issues and the public processes. We heard you about the EMS and the cancer risk and the children. Yes, I've raised children in Leavenworth County, and now I have grandchildren, hoping to get them in Leavenworth County, right? Got to get them out of Fort Riley. Okay, so we talked about the regulations. Okay, we got the regulations. We go through the regulations. Okay, there may be some others that we may have to add or make adjustments to. We talk about the noise. We talk about the turbines and the ground shakings. We're talking about water and contamination. I mean, we're talking about everything, right down to penalties. I don't even know how or if we're going to even afford for someone to impose penalties or how that's even done. I don't. I look forward to our session if we can do that, as well as the health damages, wildlife, plants, properties, trees, property assessments. People brought up their properties of depreciation. Okay, someone brought up South Haven, Mississippi. I'm from that area. Okay, love to talk to you more about that because I think there was a little bit of representation there. But I'm not sounding for the whole council here, but I think tonight, regardless of time, and if you notice, none of us give a flying fig about what time it is, since you guys are putting donations in for our breakfast here in a little bit. Right? But I do think that there's been a lot of great comments tonight, Commissioner, Chairman, and I think that, not speaking for the team, but I think that what's it going to hurt for us to go back and relook and sit down with our Board of County Commissioners and have some of these experts come in and it be an open work session. We're going to need a much bigger place.
I'll make a motion.
So somebody needs to make a motion.
Well, I got one more comment. John, who votes on the business development plan? Do we get to see that? No. We don't get to see that. So who gets to see that? Just the Board of County Commissioners. So it's a hidden agenda that only the Board of County Commissioners get to see and vote on. Nobody else gets to know what's in it. Am I right?
It'd be another reason for us to meet and get this in line first. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion
Before you make the motion, I'm really sorry to interrupt.
No.
This is a unique situation because
we're in a situation where we've had a public hearing, and so if you would like to continue the public hearing on to a date certain, that's an option. And I know with you, Jaden, you are probably going to do exactly the right thing. I just want to say, I don't think I've ever seen this body continue a public hearing before. So that would be appropriate action if you wish to continue.
The only question I would have would be a date. Do I need to specifically say a date?
Yes.
Okay. I would prefer it be nighttime because I think they've proven that they'll show up at night, despite.
Jason, I might interject, it would be something that would fall after we've had an opportunity to meet with the Board of County Commissioners in a work session.
Okay.
Wait, before you make a motion, can you explain to us if we do not impose any sort of, or enact any sort of development ordinance or code tonight, there's not a moratorium, and someone can submit an application, and it would go through the special use process, correct?
It would. Yeah, that's their only avenue. And in the absence of any other regulation, they would have to, because I won't designate them as a standard industrial use, it will absolutely go through an SUP process.
And with that, there
We'd
is
see an
limited.
SUP though, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
We would see an SUP.
Yes. There'll be a public hearing, just like every other SUP you've ever looked at. So,
Yes, and however, there's not any.
there's no design criteria.
There's no design criteria. Correct. Okay. Just want to.
Which is one of the reasons that was precautionary of, based on an SUP and an application, we could not impose things that are not within
Yes.
Well,
our language already, because then that would be unlawful.
however, hastiness is not a reason to make a
No,
bold decision.
didn't say that. I'm just, I'm pointing out we're in a very tricky place here.
We could table the SUP until we get these in order too, though.
You could do a number of things.
Yes.
But I just want to be clear, you did open and close the public hearing, just so I'm
I
clear.
closed it before we went on.
Okay.
Actually, to clarify, I thought we closed the public comment portion of the public hearing. I think maybe we're splitting hairs, so they could continue it on to next month. And always continue it on if they were not able to have a joint session with the commission.
Would we
Why can't we-
be able to continue the public hearing and ask for a work session prior to that?
You can certainly ask for a work session with the BOCC. You can continue, this matter to next month. I think John and I will have. I need to go back and review exactly if the hearing was closed or just the public comment portion of it. But if we need to re-notice up another public hearing, we can do that. So.
I said public hearings, that says on here, so.
Okay.
So
that means it's already closed.
And we'd have to notify.
Sounds like we've closed the
But at
public
work
hearing.
session, since we rarely have them with the public, they can't come in and give us information, but we can ask them for information.
I thought I did.
No, they can come and watch, but they can't have the open comment here. But if so-and-so made a comment on this, we could ask them to clarify your point on this. Specifically, it's not an open public talking, but we could ask them specifically, right?
For the work session?
Yes. That's what they originally just told me.
I've seen them done a variety of ways. So I've seen some where it's ideally supposed to be with the planning commission and the commission to discuss things, and I've seen sometimes where people did come and comment based on questions that were asked. So you can have a work session and see what happens.
Well, and I think it's times of the essence. We don't need to drag this. Let's not have a work session with BOCC in 6 weeks. Let's get this done in the next 14 days. I mean, they work 1 day a week. I think they could meet with us one night. I don't think we're asking a whole lot of the BOCC to come meet with us one night in the next 2 weeks.
We have a lot of schedules.
So if I ask to continue the public hearing, or should I, since it's closed, I table it until next month and ask for a combined work session prior to that? Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we table this until our next month meeting and have a joint work session with the BOCC and us, and invite the public to attend and possibly give comment.
Second.
So is that prior to?
Prior to our meeting, yes. Work session prior to it.
Any more discussion on it? Do a vote. Marcus Major?
Yes.
Andrew Gribble?
No.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
William Gotchick?
Yes.
Daniel Clemens?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Joshua Zanger?
Yes.
Passes 8-1 to table until August meeting. Oh, it's September.
This is August.
Yes, this is September. That's July,
On to the next case.
Yep.
I move to
Anything else? We adjourn.
Thank you.